It is your prisonplanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here in this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and it is Monday, the 8th day of April, 2013. We're going to be here live for the next 3 hours. There is just all sorts of insanity breaking out all over the world, in Egypt, in Libya, in Syria, in North Africa. Christians are being mass murdered and just torched and beheaded and raped and killed everywhere. Black Libyans are being hacked up with machetes and machine gunned daily. And it's just back of foreign newspapers because the Peace Prize winner is running it all with NATO. I mean, I have stacks of these articles every day, to the point of I don't even get to them. It's like, oh, Coptic Christians under siege as mob attacks Cairo Cathedral, trying to burn it down. London Independent. Israel closes Gaza crossing after rockets fired. Gaza, I mean, it just goes on and on and on until it is not even a news item anymore. It is just not even a news item that all of this craziness is going on. And it's now normal to have the Department of Defense have training manuals for the military that, quote, evangelical Christians and Catholics, period, are extremists, and they put them in a category right next to Al-Qaeda. And it's on Fox News. It's not even a news item. It's just Fox News doesn't become a national story. MSNBC host in a promo ad running says your kids don't belong to you. They belong to the state and the collective. And the only place that cares about it is drudgereport.com. It's on the left-hand side of drudgereport.com. MSNBC host, your kids belong to the collective. And that's why the White House said last week, the Drudge Report is causing us problems. The Drudge Report is causing us problems because we can't control the narrative. I mean, what is there? There's Infowars.com. There's Drudge Report. Beck covers some of this stuff. Limbaugh a little bit, but he won't talk about Republicans that are going along with it, really. I mean, this country, Michael Savage talks about some of this stuff. And of course, they're not perfect. But, I mean, at least they'll say communism's not a good idea. America has lost its moral rudder and compass, and so is the entire Western world, for that matter. And now Katie barred the door. I mean, Katie barred the door. I was driving into work this morning, listening to local AM talk radio, and I heard caller after caller going, Obamacare gives me free health care. Obama cares about me. And the host would say, well, you know, it doubles health care prices this year. It hires 16,000 IRS agents. It was written by the insurance companies. It's a giant scam. It does have death panels, rationing of care. And the people would laugh at him going, that's a talking point from the Republican Party. No, the Republican Party's bought and paid for at the top by the very same people. It's bought and paid for by the very same people at every level. And Mitt Romney, with the big insurance companies a decade ago or more, wrote what became Obamacare. I mean, heaven help us. It's all about rah, rah, I'm in the winning camp, I'm a Democrat, and my guy's in power. And when a Republican's in power, rah, rah, my guy's in, I'm winning. Meanwhile, foreign special interests are gutting this country up one side and down the other. That's what's going on in this nation. That's what's happening. And America has just gotten in a position of a bunch of TV head, iPod surfing, iPad surfing, people who cannot take action to even save their own future. There is not an initiative in this country. 101 million people don't work in this country of the supposed workforce. Basically, close to half the country doesn't work. in this country. And they're now saying, hey, let's enslave the other group and make them serve us. We'll be back with all the big news. We have a full raft of guests joining us. Dr. Steve Pieczenik, who is on the DMZ, will be with us for about 10 minutes at the bottom of the hour with any updates on the North Korea-South Korea crisis that's continuing to basically escalate. And then we've got Dan Bongion, the Secret Service agent on, who's gone public defending the Second Amendment. We've got him popping in on the broadcast. We've got Mike Glenn, who's obviously known as the Stinger, a very famous basketball player, to talk about the real black history and a lot of really interesting things that he's written about in his books and how it ties into modern-day things that are happening. He's also involved with InfoWarsTeam.com, InfoWarsHealth.com. And then I'm going to go into overdrive today with Antonio Buehler, the West Point grad, no criminal record, film police grabbing on women. And so he simply went over to film it, and they got in his face, grabbed on him, and they've now had a grand jury indict him a year later. Why don't they go indict George Washington or the Bill of Rights? How about you indict a newborn baby and cut its spinal cord with a pair of scissors? I mean, that's what they do every hour in this country. Babies that are born out on the table, 9 months old, people begging to adopt it, just kill it. I mean, I say indict all the babies and put them on death row. I mean, if you're going to, again, you got the cops going around with high-def sunglasses, videoing us, government breaking in to our computers, Google breaking into our computers, all of it illegal. But they're trying to put people in prison for life in Illinois who film or tape the police. This is the upside-down world. By the way, I heard that Police Chief Art Aceveda wants to come on the broadcast because I guess he heard me talking about how he should move back to Cuba, where they take the guns from the general citizens. He supposedly fled there as a child with his parents from the tyranny of Cuba, and now he says you shouldn't be able to have a 15-round mag. Shut down the gun shows. And he said in his speech, you either go along with this or you're with the criminals. Hey, Art, crimes dropped 49% because of the proliferation of firearms since 1991, FBI's own numbers. Stop putting out the Southern Poverty Law Center, ADL, Million Mom, 13 bureaucrat march, 14 bureaucrat march. I've been out to these in Austin. Stop sitting there with all your fake bluster. You bet I want you to come in here whenever you want this week. Come into studio. I can't wait. I can't wait. Come in studio. Came up to Jakari Jackson. They were out there at the 15 bureaucrat and 14 communist march down at the Capitol, demonizing the Second Amendment here in Austin, Texas. And Art Aceveda came over and said that he wants to come on and confront me. Well, come on. That'll make some good radio, I tell you. And he's a nice guy. He's like, hey, here's my card. I live over here by you. You ought to come over to the house and have a beer sometime. And I'm like, come over and have a beer and drive home? He said, no, of course not. Wait a few hours. Anyways, I like to have a beer. It's just all anthropology, sociology, as he's here trying to calm the natives and get us to turn in our boomsticks and go on the reservation. He's going to pat me on the head. He's definitely a slick one. A Fed, if I've ever seen one. And so we will certainly get him in here. I'm looking forward to that. So let's call his office and tell him, Art wants to come in here now. Bring him in. Bring him in. Bring him in. Speaking of Second Amendment news, Obama to bring some Sandy Hook families on Air Force One. Yeah, to pimp out the dead children some more. Or to bring on people that sit there and look and act like actors. They're sitting there laughing while watching this. 2 seconds later, turn your guns in. I mean, it's like, wow, man, if my kids have been killed like this, I'd be saying, why was Adam Lanza on all these psychotropic drugs, which has now come out. And, of course, it's now come out again. People said last week, oh, it's breaking. He was on 7 psychotropics. Holmes, the supposed Batman shooter. Remember, I shot a video saying I thought they'd pull false flags with triggers in the movie. Then the media asked, why does Alex connect Batman to the last 2 shootings? I connected it before it happened. And it turned out that he was on 7 drugs. That came out early on, but finally it was in the LA Times last week, so now it's official. 7 psychotropic drugs, and then under government psychiatric care with a top Air Force officer, and he was in a DARPA program that was in computer mind interface virtual reality mind control. And then his dad was involved with the big 6 megabanks writing key software. I mean, just talk about the same history. Harris and Kleinbold's parents, both involved with DARPA. Look that up. Man, I tell you, who knows if any of this is even real or true. By the way, Adon Salazar found 2 different people from the Batman shooting that are admitted actors. In fact, some of them are in pretty good-sized movies that were official victims in it. And they're in Aurora. And I told him back at the time, I said, don't do that report. We don't need to get off into that because the public just isn't ready for it. But I want him to go dig those up again. I mean, you've got the promo reels, and it's not like people are saying, hey, this guy's an actor, hey, that guy's an actor, hey, this guy looks alike. There's a lot of schizophrenics out there that think, you know, I'm Bill Hicks or whatever, when I'm actually a reptoid. I mean, come on. We all know the truth. But expanding on this, these are people that are admitted actors. And I don't mean just all these wannabe actors. I mean, they're really actors. And they're on the news going, look, I have my pay stub. Yes, I saw it all. One guy acted alone. We need to restrict the Second Amendment. And I mean, they've even had Al-Qaeda out there, you know, with a cut, okay, roll, take 3 on CNN. And the Russians were able to descramble it and put it out where they're literally going, okay, ready, action. Okay, as soon as I say action, start firing the guns. Okay, action. Are you ready, CNN? Oh, okay. You know, amateur actors, amateur CIA guys. We need an actor, Gary. Right out of Team America. Hold on. Okay, I'm ready to go. Yes, we are here in Syria where Assad is hurting the children. And as you can hear, pow, 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 pow. There are dead here. Yes, they are killing us. Help us, America. Help us, America. I mean, we did reports on that a year ago, where they've got all these fake people out there, just like the babies in the incubators in 1990, and just like all the other lies where they have the daughter of the PR firm come in there and say that Koresh molested him. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, to the point of they say, okay, we're going to burn down Dorner. Get the fire, set the fire, burn him up. I want that cabin burnt down. We have the fire. We have placed the fire. The fire is ignited. We have a fire. All right, good job, team. That does not mean we burn that down. That's a conspiracy theory.
That sounds like the ravings of a fascist.
You guys have got to stop that, please. That is funny. Oh, man. You know what sounds like the ravings of a fascist? Let's cue up this Colorado state rep where they're giving Secret Service the power to engage in police actions against citizens. That's federal police with a state bill, the state being fully federalized, SB 13-013. A.T.F., of course, has got giant spy databases they're setting up. Army says evangelicals and Catholics, period, are extremists, and put them in a map next to Al-Qaeda. Yeah, there it is. A member of the state legislature, Diane DeGetti, she says that, and we talked about this on last week, but I mean, I just got to play this clip again. She says, hey, we've got to get rid of the magazines, because after you use them, you can only use them once. So, again, a lot of this is just the people that are anti-liberty are dumber than a sack of bricks. I mean, they are dumber than a dead possum that's been dead for 5 days on the side of the road that's got bureaucrats crawling all over it. I mean, these people are as dumb as the day is long. They are stupid. And that's who the globalists get to run for office. Just the dumbest, stupidest morons out there. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to this clip of her saying we got to ban the magazines because then they're no good after you use them once. Here it is.
I do think that we can pass those. And just very briefly, to your last question, what's the efficacy of banning these magazine clips? I will tell you, these are ammunition. They're bullets. So the people who have those now, they're going to shoot them. And so if you ban them in the future, the number of these high-capacity magazines is going to decrease dramatically over time because the bullets will have been shot and there won't be any more available.
The road to hell is paved with useful idiot morons, and this woman wins the Grand Idiot Award. The grand dupe, sucker, schmuck, fool, dumb ass. I have to use that term. It's the only way to describe it. And listen, they got legions of these people. I've had a carpet cleaner in my house, saw a gun case, and started to call the police. And I had to call their manager and say, stop them, they're mentally ill. I mean, that's America, ladies and gentlemen. Dumber than a box of rocks, thinking Obama's going to give them free health care. And you want to talk about the ravings of a control freak authoritarian, the ravings of a fascist. This story's up on drudgereport.com. MSNBC host, 4 kids belong to the collective. It's on the left-hand side of drudgereport.com. It's an Infowars.com story, but it scrolled off. It's from yesterday. I'm going to get it posted back up on Infowars.com, where she says, your kids belong to us. And this is an MSNBC promo video. They're not going to stop, okay? They're going to raise your taxes till you live in a 200-square-foot coffin box with government pedos in there teaching your kids, like Jocelyn Elders said, how to masturbate. That's who these people are. All right, Alex Jones here, back live. Dr. Pieczenik's popping in for like 10 minutes. From the DMZ with the latest on North Korea. We'll get into that. But here's the headline. MSNBC host, your kids belong to the collective. And there she is with this arrogant, lisping, crazed look in her eye. These are dominators. These are people that can't build anything. So they see their empires building as they take you over. These are slave masters who want to be able to, like the UN has pushed and Jocelyn Elders, quote, reach down and show the kids how to do it. And you're like, that's outrageous. Well, why are they so outrageous? Because it's about breaking you. It's about Stockholm Syndrome. It's about going for it all and then going for it all again and going, they're like hopping around demons. People that hate you having a nice family, hate your swimming pool, hate your wealth. That's all they talk about. Disgusting America with all its wealth and people that have things. I mean, you hear it. Meanwhile, they're in helicopters and jets and giant government buildings. They hate you. They have an instinct towards total domination. They have an instinct that if you gain something, they're losing something because they're predators. These people are total and complete predators. The reason I'm bringing up Jocelyn Elders is I was talking about how the state controls your kids, and one of the IT guys that was up here last night, he goes, remember Jocelyn Elders? Going, reach down and help the kindergartners. That voice, reach down and help them. I mean, it's just like, what? Is there no end to you people? And now we've got Melissa Harris Perry engaged in total neuro-linguistic programming. People always asking me, do you know about this? Do you know about that? So I went and studied it. And it's a quack science they use that I guess only works on people that are unconscious. And they'll say something that they know is what people agree with. Your children belong to you, to trigger synapses in the brain. They go, that's right, they do. They're mine. You know, normal mammalian response. But actually, we need to strengthen public education. We haven't supported it, which is a lie. More funding to communist education, government re-education camps than any other nation in the history of the world, meant to take over society in their own documents that Charlotte Iserby details in her book, Deliberate Dumbing Down. So first she says something that's true to get you, then she gives you a lie. It's all scripted off a teleprompter. Official MSNBC ad. Your kids belong to you, and they're your responsibility. And then, by the way, we haven't been supportive of public education. But now that's all over because your kids belong to the whole community, and she sells it like, oh, we're going to take a weight off you. Let your kids stay till 8 at night at the public school like they're now pushing. Let's have over the summer. You know what? All the time. The whole thing is a psych warfare event with a crazed nobody that goes to Delphi Technique and Rand Corporation events. They're all funded by this. It's on record. You can look it up. All these federal bureaucrats at that level. That's a federal agent you're looking at right there. MSNBC is a globalist propaganda command base raining down racial and cultural division with the government as the unifier. The Roman model of balkanize everybody and then it bundles the sticks together. True fascism is the sticks bundled together, tied together. The fasci. That's what fascism comes from. Break us into pieces so we're not strong, and then the state ties us together with hatchets above it, the sword, the weapon, the gun. You don't have a gun, the state has the gun. These are naked, conscious authoritarians running around with their tongues hanging out like wild wolves. And you're in such a trance, people are like, the government loves me. Obama wants to give me something free. Obama is CIA raised from birth, Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, literal Manchurian candidate of the New World Order to bring in hell and death. Ladies and gentlemen, he rides the white horse of pestilence and death. Now let's go ahead and go to this clip. We're going to go to break and come back with it. We got time. Go out to break with it. Here's the evil.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
All right, folks, we'll be right back. That's official MSNBC. And courts have said in California your kids don't belong to you. And they've also come out and said they'll give kids shots without your consent. We are here live, ladies and gentlemen. And we, of course, are back weeknights, 7 o'clock with InfoWars Nightly News. I'm just going to get a 10-minute update from Dr. Steve Pieczenik here, and then I'm going to get back into all the world news and the incredible attacks that are accelerating on the First Amendment, you name it. The A.T.F. on the federal website has put out the bid for data mining to spy illegally on all gun owners and your web activity. Google, the NSA front, is breaking into all the computers with its Google cars and other systems with passcodes, stealing your data for the NSA and the foreign six banks that run it. I mean, it is just wall-to-wall criminal activity. There are tens of thousands of private intelligence groups now that have been given full national security access to everything. So understand, it's not just Nixon spying on you with your IRS records, and he was going to go to jail for that until he stepped down. Now, thousands and thousands, including quasi-foreign mercenary groups, are given above top secret clearances to listen to your phones, get in your computers, your bank accounts, and they put it on the news. Oh, intelligence agencies look at your bank account every day. Intelligence agencies listen to you. Private contractors. I mean, it is just the age of the criminal. Every criminal on earth turned loose, the government recruiting them to absolutely implode and rob everyone. This is like the French Revolution, the Jacobins, the opposite of our revolution. This is an Illuminati, crazy person orgy. We're seeing a wall-to-wall orgy with the TSA, their vanguard, openly training us to be groped, to have our families groped for prisoner training. And they're buying billions of bullets and armored vehicles and setting up checkpoints all over the place and putting the military on the street. I mean, they are just running wild. And their main drive is destroying the family, destroying men and women, destroying normalcy. This is a group of mentally ill deviants. What do you think the Nazis were? A bunch of deviants. What do you think the communists were? A bunch of deviants. I mean, have you read about Hitler, Mao Zedong, Stalin, Lenin? These are their own writings, the stuff they were into. Ultimate weirdos who don't like those of us that just want to go home to our wife and kids and be normal, that never get tired of a steak, never get tired of fishing, never get tired of a sunset, never get tired of our wives, of our husbands. We are anathema to them. They like burning cities, starving children, black uniforms, hell on earth. And I, for one, have had enough of it. I've had enough of it. And it's time for the strong and the decent and the normal to rise up and to call out the enemy and call it out for what it is. They are on mainstream news. I have the Fox News. And Fox News is like, is this good? And they're like, well, maybe. All Catholics and all evangelical Christians listed in a file, let's show people, as being with Al-Qaeda. It shows their names, and they teach the military that's extremism. Army labeled evangelicals as religious extremists. Let's scroll down. And it actually shows the document. If you click on it, if you're watching on TV at prisonplanet.tv, right next to it, you can actually just blow it up then. Just blow it up there on the screen for everybody. You can just go back to the actual page and just blow it up on that screen like I did yesterday. And then it's right side up. It's just incredible. This is a psychological warfare tactic where they're totally beyond gaslighting everyone. They are just creating total learned helplessness and a mass Stockholm Syndrome effect using normalcy bias. And they are on purpose frying everyone's brains right now with MSNBC officially in promos saying the state runs your children, the collective is here, we're taking your guns, and they've got their talking point minions calling into talk radio going, there are no bullets, there are no drones, there are no checkpoints, there is no TSA, the health care is all free, everything is wonderful, and you hear them giggling and snickering, saying to the host, I heard it this morning, calling in a group, the host didn't even know what was happening as I was driving into work on 590, going, that's just in your chain emails. None of this is happening. None of this is happening. As if we're so weak-minded, they sit there and tell us this isn't happening. I'm sorry. Let's go to Dr. Steve Pieczenik, who doesn't need an introduction. He flew out there to cover it, former top hostage negotiator for the State Department and crisis manager, helped get the Camp David Accords through, was involved with General Boykin founding Delta Force in 1979, and has also been involved using psychological warfare to overthrow governments. And he says, he just told us during the break, he's got to leave very soon because they're putting major pressure on him now, the globalist intelligence groups, to kick him out of the country. And he's there on the DMZ with official, the Korean government, because they know him, he was involved in the democratization of the country, has got an attaché attached to him, and he can give us a report on what's happening to him right now and the latest from North Korea. But first off, Doc, what do you think about my rant about authoritarianism?
Well, you know, it's ironic. You and I have telepathic feelings. You're far more assertive and a little bit, quite frankly, without being facetious, you're far more historically referenced. I was so impressed with the Plato and the Nietzsche reference that I was taken aback and I had to go read some. But let me just get back to exactly what you were saying. This is not a rant. Let's make it very clear. One of the things that I learned here on the DMZ zone and in Korea and in interviewing our soldiers, our special soldiers coming out of the Ranger schools in Fort Lewis, is one thing, and I've learned it repeatedly. That was the one reason why I came here. Number one, this problem is not our problem. We have contributed to this problem in South Korea through many, many ways. I would not be surprised that our POTUS, Obama and Hillary, when they went to Myanmar, decided that when we shifted all our assets into the Far East, including our CINCPAC, as well as Marines into Australia, there was no reason for it. We don't need now military forces in order to reinsure our financial interest. What I found now in South Korea was exactly the opposite of what you found in America and what I have found, and we've come to the same conclusion. I came out of here yesterday after coming to the DMZ, talking to hundreds of South Koreans. There was not one South Korean, despite this whole crisis and warmongering, who was upset, disgusted with America, or upset about some Kim Jong-un, and they thought it was a joke. They had a highly amount of disrespect for us. They said we should leave, and I've said that for 20 years. We do not need a base in Seoul. That base is worth billions of dollars. We have made a lot of money by selling it back to South Korea. They have asked us repeatedly to leave. South Korea does not need our help. North Korea will go through its own crisis as a baby goes through its crisis, and eventually it will resolve itself. Our business is not to respond to symptoms, it's to prevent them. If we have any effective system, it should be in the prevention of crisis. That's really prevention. But instead, we have a president. We've had three sequestering presidents, Clinton, Bush, and Obama, who have repeatedly got into rendition and into sequestration and into wars that were false and have continuously lied to the American public. I cannot emphasize enough your passion as well as mine. Now, I've worked with 5, 6 presidents. None of them were as vitriolic in their attempt to control the American public for everything that everybody said about Nixon. He never tried to control the American public. He looked at the IRS. He created a lot of welfare programs. We went to a war that he did not want. It was started by John F. Kennedy and LBJ, who had the dignity to leave. We have people in the White House who have no dignity, no competency, and who are totally sociopaths. We have a military-industrial complex that's creating and fomenting these so-called crises. I knew the minute we were shifting our entire think pack, our Navy and our Marines into Australia while Hillary and Obama were conniving in Myanmar, Burma, I knew we would be getting into trouble in the South China Sea. We are irrelevant. I cannot tell you, after talking to hundreds of intelligence operatives here, of Koreans, we are so irrelevant. They are so prosperous that when I look back at this entire issue, you know what I come out of it with? The same conclusion you came out of it. I go through TSA. I had to go 3 times to TSA in Miami, San Francisco, and elsewhere. They were pathetic. The minorities who ran it were illiterate. They could not speak English. The ones who could speak English were dumb, and they were looking at things that were totally irrelevant. There is no counterterrorism. There is no security. What we have created is a dysfunctional, self-destructive government. It must stop. It will not stop from the constitutional amendments that we have or our legislators. They are incompetent. The Constitution is antiquated. We have to renovate it. We have to get rid of our legislators. They no longer represent our interests. It's crony capitalism, and we can no longer really abide by presidential elections. They're just a joke. It's just one CIA asset. As many as most people won't realize, even Clinton, the slick Willie, a total sociopath, a drug addict, was recruited at Yale as a CIA asset. I was on the board in the Fulbright, where we gave out Fulbright scholarships to CIA potential candidates. When he went to Oxford and his roommate was Strobe Talbot, he never even finished the education. He ended up in Moscow, elsewhere. He doesn't talk about it. Then he goes to MENA, services our CIA through drugs into the third world country. Then we get Bush, who's a total moron, completely CIA asset, run by Cheney, run by a whole group of guys who were dysfunctional and were thrown out by Bush Sr., and yet they come up to the top because of the power elite within the Republican Party.
Sure, and Doc, let's tie this in.
Will destroy itself.
Sure, you're there on the DMZ. I want to get a little bit into that before you've got to leave us. But look at how Rumsfeld in the mid-'90s with Clinton helps transfer the reactors to the type that could create the fissile material for A-bombs. Look at how you said the big defense contractors are there trying to sell weapons to everybody during this crisis. They stand to gain from destabilization instead of just having a free market system. You were telling me yesterday how you were in the restaurant surrounded by CIA people casing you. You told Chris you've got to split soon because they're starting to put pressure on you. Describe the atmosphere there, because here it is. North Korea shows signs.
Here's the atmosphere. It's very clear. On the DMZ zone, in some ways, I'm a lot more protected because there's very little they can do to me. Either there's no grounds on which they can arrest me because basically I'm providing information literally to you and to the American public. I have not violated the First Amendment. What's happening is I'm seeing more and more surrounding me within other confines in Seoul and the CIA and DMZ, more and more American soldiers who stand out, who really have no idea of what they're doing. From Fort Lewis for Fort Bragg, I asked them repeatedly, what is your mission statement? I don't want their secrecy. They say it's so complex. I say, why is it so complex when it's psychological warfare? I asked them, how many weeks did you get in military intelligence at Fort Huachuca, which is what we do in in military intelligence. You know how many weeks? 2 weeks. It was worthless.
No, they're babies, and
it's not just babies. The point here.
Well,
Alex,
they say complex because they don't know.
No, they know. What's happening is they're being brainwashed by an incompetent system that no longer functions. Let me put it simply, as you said. In medicine, we say to the patient, above all else, do no harm. Here, we have done harm to Korea. We have done harm to Pakistan. We have done harm to Afghanistan. We have done harm to Iraq, to Syria, to the world. It is time to come back to our country, rehabilitate ourselves, take care of ourselves. The Korean Peninsula has better traffic, better infrastructure, cleaner places than we do.
Sure, you've heard of will to power. You've heard of will to power. What about will to evil? I mean,
well, it's not will to evil. Alex, I have to a little bit disagree. What I talk about, and most people don't understand it, 20 years ago, I publicly stated that Bush Jr. and the American public was following a self-destructive course of the republic and in turn creating an empire. We are no longer a republic and we will die like Rome, but what we are in an empire is we have Centurion guards in SINCPAC, SOCOM, CENTCOM, all these fancy words, including Petraeus, Jim Dempsey, the worst chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff I've ever seen, Admiral Mullen, the worst chief of staff I've ever had. If we had Eisenhower, we had Patton, we have a George Marshall, these men would have been fired. You're talking about 600-700 men within 30 days. Any one of us who fought in the Korean War or World War II, and my family fought in the Korean War, these men would have been summarily fired. We don't have that because the leadership is incompetent, it's dysfunctional, and we're continuing to go into a self-destructive
Sure, they watch their own CIA-produced movies worshiping themselves and actually drink their own Kool-Aid.
Well, that's true, but they produce the movies in order to create for themselves a fantasy that they want to say.
No, I know. They're a bunch of delusional peacocks.
CIA operatives, and none of them are effective assassins. There were times that I sat there and I couldn't believe it. They had a subcontract out in Lebanon, and I won't give the name because he knows exactly what I'm talking about, where they literally blew up 84 innocent men and women. Years later, I looked at him and I said, this is impossible. On the other hand, we have had some great CIA leaders done, like Don Gregg, Jim Lilly, Paul Redman, all of whom who were bred and out of the old OSS and were dedicated selflessly to our country. But we now have a CIA that is as lazy and incompetent as our generals. They are overpaid because they're funded by third-party payments. So instead of coming into our agency, they're funded by SAIC, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, L3 Communications. And you'll see they get double the pay and half the capability. We do not need the CIA. We do not need this military. It is dysfunctional. If the American public understands how self-destruction, we have lost every single war. Since World War II, we have lost the Korean War, the Vietnam War. We have gone into an absurd war.
Absolutely. Bottom line, what's the current situation?
We have lost the Pakistan War. We have lost the Egyptian War, Libya. And so we have a bunch of liberals, we have a bunch of idiot Republicans who have no idea about foreign policy. It is time to devolve the government, and if we can't do that, then separate the United States into the effective components it belongs to. And that's what I've said in state of emergency. I have repeatedly stated, let the governors take care of their own states, and the rest be damned. The federal government is a totally useless cancer on our American system way of life. If we do not change the Constitution, eliminate the representatives who are totally fat and lazy and incompetent, and if we do not eliminate our generals who are incompetent.
He's all the way in South Korea. Sometimes he, I think, loses our audio, but we may get one more update tomorrow specifically on what's happening on the DMZ, but it's just a bunch of warmongering by all sides to grandstand and make government bigger and make the public more scared. Just like staging terror attacks, Kim Jong-un stages these events. All right, folks. Yeah, Dr. Pieczenik is in South Korea. and that's why he couldn't hear me sometimes. The line sounds pretty good, but sometimes it's only one way, kind of like cell phones do that sometimes. He's telling me a lot during the breaks. Bottom line, he's saying his access is being denied. He's being blocked. He's got folks creeping around, but he want to make a big deal out of that. But he has had a chance to talk to a lot of the military, and they said that there basically is no mission. I mean, the mission is look like they're doing something, but it's all for show. Just like North Korea pretty much is all for show. But if it gets too escalated, North Korea has attacked before. And so, the big thing is he believes don't stir it all up. So the West has an excuse to dominate that area of Asia, and that things might end up good down the road. Is that an accurate statement in closing, Dr. Pieczenik?
Yeah, the basic 2 points that everybody has to look at is April 15th is the anniversary of Kim Il-sung. April 30th, you may see rockets and celebration, but let me tell you very simply, we are irrelevant. The North Korea is irrelevant. The only country that's relevant right here is South Korea, and quite frankly, they do not need our military help. It's as simple as that, and let us get out of every other country and worry about our own country. That's the summary.
Well, the empire is getting more delusional when the White House press secretary, former secretary, gets up and says, I'm told to lie to everybody, and then the MSNBC host laugh. What do you make of their move to get our guns, and MSNBC hosts saying things like, the state now your children belong to the state? That's being run as an hourly promo. What are they trying to do?
The point of the state running, the government running the United States of America is two issues. One, it's totally self-delusion. Two, it's out of desperation. Three, it's total incompetency. Number four, there is no way in hell that the U.S. federal government can run anything other than barely itself, because there's no way they're going to garner 300 million guns. I conceal weapons. Half of the South that I know carries concealed weapons, including physicians, everyone else. So, Obama has no idea what America's about. Nobody in Washington, D.C. has an idea about America. Nobody's ever read American Revolution or George Washington.
Oh, I have, yeah.
We're born of the gun, not because we want to kill. We're born of the gun because we have always been mistrustful of George Washington having said the following: do not make a president. He will eventually become a king. If he is a king, then we will have to depose him. That's what we're about. We're a democracy. It's time to come home, take care of ourselves, take care of our children, bring back our army that has lost all the wars since the Second World War, get rid of the CIA, get rid of
Well, that's another point. If they think
all the departments.
Sure, if they think the globalists are going to dominate America, they couldn't even hold Baghdad. Resistance is victory, and all the billions of bullets and all of it is bluster by a criminal group that knows they should all be going to jail for the too big to fail. And look, Americans buying hundreds of millions of guns a year, hundreds of millions, folks. Americans, the last 2 years, 70 million background checks to buy guns, and half of them out there aren't even through that system. The people are voting, buying the bullets. America is actually awake. It's a psyop that we're not awake. It's a psyop that we've embraced communism. It's all a load of bull, and I only hope that we can shift back to the states and 10th Amendment before it goes to a full-bore civil war.
We will get back our power, trust me. I have a full faith in the American public. That's why I came forth, try to sacrifice my life. I don't want to make myself a hero. This is the 10th time. I did it 8 times to the United States government without any remuneration, but I warned our Army, I warned our intelligence, I warned the White House, and I warned every other institution, particularly the TSA, Homeland Security, the FBI, and every other element, that if they are to continue their self-destructive behavior, America will retaliate. They have no idea what the American public is like, from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the North.
Absolutely. God bless you. God, thanks for coming on with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Thank you so much for joining us. We're now into hour number 2. Dan Bongino, the former Secret Service agent, who has spoken out for the Second Amendment eloquently, will be popping in to join us at the bottom of the hour. You've heard Dr. Pieczenik on the last 3 shows in a row, and he definitely is a very interesting person with a long history at the highest levels of the, quote, intelligence community. And the whole government and homeland security system has become like a movie star thing, where they're secret agents and they're cool because they have this title. And it's all just a bunch of bad liars who are bringing drugs into the country and building a prison state, basically reintroducing slavery to America and exporting predatory government everywhere because these people don't know how to produce anything. They're the opposite of a renaissance. They are an authoritarian cancer. And you've got people like Dr. Pieczenik, who's, you can go look up news articles where they, finger him overthrowing governments and manipulating the communists to kill the prime minister of Italy and, right there running the Camp David Accords at the start of Delta Force. I mean, he really is an insider. And he's here, I first came on with this like 12 years ago because I saw a blurb where he'd put out on his website that bin Laden had died a long time ago, and he showed even mainstream articles admitting that he was dying of kidney failure a year before, CBS News and stuff. So I called and got him on, and that created a storm in the Council on Foreign Relations. I'll put it to you that way. And a bunch of stuff happened behind the scenes that I'm not at liberty to discuss. But you need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, the Pentagon listens to this show. Okay, and I'm not bragging. For me, I'm just a regular guy, puts his pants on, one leg at a time. In fact, one of my biggest problems is I don't put on airs and act like I'm on a power trip, which to the general public means everything nowadays, like a peacock or a parrot, displaying its feathers. We underpromise, overdeliver here. We're making history, and I say that so people know we're like on a trench run through the Death Star. And this is not a joke. I don't know how anybody out there can be bored. I don't know how anybody can sit there and watch our criminal government give the reactors to make the A-bombs to North Korea 17 years ago, bipartisan. Here's the deal. The elite are dysfunctional. They've got a cosmology and a philosophy of eugenics, but they're not serious people, even in their own ideology. They're just a bunch of crooks. They've just WikiLeaked a whole bunch of documents, millions of pages of it, they're saying. And it's stuff in Kissinger talking about all the crimes he's committing and how, we can do the criminal stuff right away, the illegal stuff right away, that's a quote, but the unconstitutional stuff we'll have to wait till later. And that's why they make fun of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights all day, because if you follow the Bill of Rights and Constitution, it binds down tyrants. The only problem is it produces so much freedom and so much wealth that everybody becomes decadent slobs. And when you're fat, dumb, and happy, you don't care anymore. 1.7 million diplomatic cables released with Herr Kissinger in there. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with a ton of news straight ahead. Stay with us. All right, we're into hour number 2, and I still haven't mentioned, obviously, that Margaret Thatcher died. We've got coverage of that up at Infowars.com. We've got several guests joining us, including a Secret Service agent that's spoken out for the Second Amendment. There's a lot of amazing news out there today. Some of it is just so ridiculous. It came out in USA Today a few years ago that 73% of Obama's Twitter followers are fake. And, of course they're fake, and now it's come out that Obama doesn't control his own Twitter account. Well, of course he doesn't. The guy is a total and complete puppet. And all of this, why does North Korea love to grandstand and threaten to nuke? Why does the West love to grandstand and say we're on the edge of World War III? Because it gives government more power no matter what country you're in. Why did Homeland Security a month ago say, cut Homeland Security funding and terrorists will attack? because they can never reverse their takeover. They've just got to expand it and expand it and expand it. They want to wreck society so they can consolidate it. That's what authoritarian, centralized systems always do, over and over. And there's articles out about the Democrats freaking out over Obamacare as their constituents learn that it doubles the price on average, that it doesn't cover pre-existing, and that they're just going to get cut from full-time to part-time. And as doctors and people quit in mass. This is what it looks like when you let the ogres take over. All they know how to do is steal stuff, not build anything, not do anything. You think the government class is going to work hard? You think the corporate class that works with government at the top? No. Why should they work hard? Why should they innovate if they can just shut down their competition because they control the government? You become North Korea when you have this type of system. When you have this type of system in place. I want to open the phones up for first-time callers here to give me your take on just how insane this world has gotten. You heard the clip we've played? MSNBC host, your kids belong to the collective. MSNBC host, your kids belong to the collective. And they now run promos saying your kids belong to the government. This is the incredible creepiness of what our society has become. And not only are we held hostage by Kim Jong-un, who, you know, Japan's freaking out because they can actually be hit by his nukes. There's no doubt about that. And just as government creates this abomination where this nobody joke is threatening to nuke the U.S. and Japan, it's the same thing where these nobody jokes that have gotten in control of government are threatening terror attacks if we don't give them more money and let them stick their hands down our pants as an act of domination. That's what a crazy, you know, joke all this has become. I mean, look at this Fox News headline. Army manual, evangelicals are religious extremists. A U.S. Army training instructor, well, no, it's the manual. This is Southern Poverty Law Center manual. It's what it is. I've seen it 100 times, literally. Listed evangelical Christians and Catholicism as examples of religious extremism along with Al-Qaeda, Hamas, during a briefing with the Army Reserve Unit based in Pennsylvania. Click here for the most important, and then it goes through it. We find this offensive to have evangelical Christians and Catholic Church to be listed among it, and then it goes on. Army spokesman George Wright told Fox News that it was an isolated incident not condoned by the Department of the Army. Pure bull. Pure bull. That is Southern Poverty Law Center. I even recognize the way they format the text. If you pull up the MIAC reports, the Homeland Security reports, the FBI reports, there are literally over 100 modern FBI manuals. And it's all the same font, officially put out by the Southern Poverty Law Center. The ADL has a hand in it. I mean, it's just, I instantly see it and know who did it. These are foreign groups who are here saying, if you're a gun owner, a conservative, a returning veteran, a Christian, period, you're a terrorist. These people badmouth George Washington. And you know what? Folks, if you want to live under this, that's fine. I mean, I cannot believe that people go, Alex Jones is radical, Alex Jones is scary, Alex Jones is spooky. Yeah, that's a Glenn Beck quote. I'm spooky. I'm spooky because I recognize what's going on, and I'm freaking out about it, saying, hey, we're in deep trouble. No, I'm pointing out stuff that is spooky. I'm not spooky. I'm talking about things that are spooky. Real spooky. I mean, we've got a bunch of people that have studied authoritarianism and that are on giant, out-of-control power trips who really want to have a pure authoritarian takeover. Toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. Guys, can you queue up Joe Biden calling for a new world order. And then I saw headlines in Gawker and a bunch of other places saying, oh, Christmas has come early. The conspiracy tards are going to have fun with this because it doesn't exist. They had a public policy poll, that's Democratic Party group, out last week saying, do you believe in the imaginary New World Order? And then they're like, shocking, 1/3 believe in the imaginary New World Order. I mean, it's like saying, you know, 1/3 believe in the imaginary Atlantic Ocean. I mean, it's just frustrating. It's like you're informed and you're smart, and people marvel at it. I mean, so much of why we have a problem in this society is people aren't really stupid. They're ignorant, and they're lazy, and they don't want to know. I mean, I sit there and people watch. I went and swam in the river yesterday, and after I was drying off, I watched people for about 10 minutes sitting there drying off before I got in the car. I shot a video report as well while I was drying off. It's Of Ants and Men is the name of it. And I watched how insecure men are. Big, tough-looking men and women with their kids, and just everybody's so scared of what people think of them and how they look. And it's just such chains. There's incredible chains on people to where they can laugh at you and go, you believe in authoritarianism, it doesn't exist. Ah, oh, let's laugh at Charlton Heston. He believed in freedom. Ah. And a normal person, a well-adjusted person, looks at that and says, look at that sophomoric propaganda. But the propaganda is sophomoric because it's targeting sophomoric arrested development people. You know, we had the Secret Service show up here again this morning, and none of the managers were here because Rob Dew works till about 7 or 8 at night, so he gets here at 10:30. I was actually here. I was out there taking a shower because I went and exercised this morning. I got a shower back there. And Tim Frugier was over on the other side, so they just told him, yeah, Alex should be here in 10 minutes. So I was actually there about 2 minutes. And I come back out there because they have a subpoena for an idiot, you know, that went on the Infowars.com comments and said he wanted to go after somebody. I don't know what yet. And I told people, I said, they didn't come back in 10 minutes, of course, and they got sheriff's deputies driving around the parking lot right now. And, you know, let me tell you how government works. If they can get you to not take a subpoena, they'll go say we didn't take the subpoena and then SWAT team us and grab all our computers, you know, try to shut us down for a while. Now, if somebody else up above them will say, don't do that, don't give Alex Jones attention. See, I'm not worried. I'm not worried. Whatever happens to me, I'm trying to do the right thing for the children, the million-plus children that CPS takes every year and rapes and you know, Jocelyn elders, you know, where they teach them how to masturbate. I mean, it's a pervert guild. I mean, you think I'm worried about my life when I know you've got kids pinned down all over the country, raping the daylights out of them right now, and I feel guilty that I'm not kicking down doors, stopping them right now, and I just sit here trying to wake people up? You think I care? You think I'm worried about you? You think I'm like you, a coward, a sack of garbage? You think I'm like you? I'm not like you. I'm a red-blooded person who is not even near good, but that simply doesn't want to hurt innocent people. You people are a bunch of delusional scum. And I'm going to tell you something. Society is going to collapse. This country is going to be judged. So you have all your partial birth abortions and you shoot your kids up and watch them have convulsions and brain damage them. This country is run by psycho killer demons, folks. That's all I got to tell you. That's all I got to tell you. And you know what? I seem crazy to people because I'm awake and I see it. That's why, at first, it's just so shocking. He yelled at Piers Morgan, we don't need to be like that and say, I know you want my guns because you want to enslave me. But you notice nobody else invited me on. You notice everybody else is scared to death. And I went down and confronted Piers Morgan when he was in Houston, walked in behind the scenes. There's video of it. And he jumped when he saw me. And then later, off camera, his people said, no, it was the highest ratings we ever got. It's on record. But we're not going to have you back on. We're trying to get you back on, but peers and higher ups, this is with the producer in front of my crew, the higher up just say it's giving you too much attention. Exactly. If I was losing, they would have me everywhere. I'd be sticking my tongue out on the cover of Time magazine. But ladies and gentlemen, we're not losing. And we're not winning because we're something special. We're winning because we've got a pulse and we're not pure evil. That's all you got to do is be able to recognize good versus evil. 2 + 2 = 4. If you can do that, if you can just recognize the evil running rampant all over the place, if you can simply recognize that and simply understand that, then everything else falls into place. But if you can't recognize that we're in deep trouble, you'll never recognize it. As stuff gets worse and worse, you've already said nothing's wrong, so you'll go down with the ship. You won't even fix the holes in the ship because you're in delusion. Right now,
there must be some
in Egypt,
way out of here.
in Libya, in Syria, NATO, CENTCOM, U.S. military forces are arming and trading Al-Qaeda, who are blowing up and burning churches as we speak. New videos every day of Christian families begging as their heads are chopped off, as mosques are burned to the ground, and Al-Qaeda has given U.S. satellite data to carry out the operations. Now, see, I guess that is spooky, what I just said. It's true. Because our government is gone, ladies and gentlemen. It's totally taken over by foreign mega banks that are completely disconnected from reality and get away with anything they want. And China's pure evil, Russia's pure evil, it's all evil. Having a country not completely run by evil is extremely rare. I got the famous basketball player Mike Glenn, known as the Stinger, coming on. Really interesting guy, so I wanted to get him on to talk about a host of issues. Antonio Buehler is going to be in studio with us. Yep, Austin says you can't film police, you'll be indicted. They spin it and say, well, he was interfering with the police. Yeah, they run over and start grabbing on his camera. And so they've had a grand jury indict him. Yeah, and they tried to tell me 3 weeks ago we couldn't hand out magazines in Austin. You know, I don't have to drive far now to see National Guard running checkpoints and traffic control in Austin. I don't have to go far to find TSA doing checkpoints, searching bags and cars without warrants. I can just go like 2 miles from here. Told you it was coming, 12 years ago, but now I can just go down and show you. And then I know what else is going to come. And then the weird Enviro inspectors with their badges, the little green uniforms and badges, are going to order their way into my home. And if I tell them they can't come, well, they'll just come with a SWAT team and kill me. Because they're the good guys. Now they get on the news and tell me my kids belong to them. I knew their textbooks have said that forever, but now they're just openly saying it. And the yuppies will just go whatever they think's popular. Oh, the state runs kids? Well, here's my kids. Oh, you'll arrest me if I don't take shots? There's no law, but even if there was a law, it'd be unconstitutional. Okay, fine. Lie to me and say it's the law, I got to take shots. I mean, it's criminals have gotten away with everything, and now they're going to take your pension fund. By the way, that's being announced. That they're going to take rich people's pension funds of after-tax money. Only the rich people, of course. And when they're done, they'll get your money, too. This is the season of the takeover, though. 100+ million people out of work. 50 million on food stamps. And that number's going to just increase until they got everybody on the dole. You'll either work for the government, or you'll be a bureaucrat with the government, or you'll work for a corporation that's fed by the government, or you'll be on welfare. And who do they demonize in all the Homeland Security and FEMA training manuals? Conservative, libertarian, returning veterans, gun owners, Christians. It says evangelical Christians, Christian Catholics, period. You're with Al-Qaeda. Fox News. Why I was sent from Phoenix in 1999, famous FBI training manual for police, and it said, those that believe in the Constitution, those that call themselves constitutionalists or make frequent references to the Constitution, they are terrorists. And if you see someone talking like that, call the FBI. And you can turn on now the sitcoms and dramas, and every show, if somebody talks about their rights, everybody laughs at them and points. And the public is so peer pressure driven. Oh, well, I better not. Someone will laugh at me. That's the end of the world. You shouldn't fear cowardly jellyfish who don't have their own opinion because they're so dumbed down, them laughing at you. It's like having a... Do you get mad when a squirrel taunts you and barks at you and laughs at you? You know, squirrels do that. They actually kind of have their own laugh. I mean, do you get mad when a squirrel? No, it's a squirrel. Who cares about it? I mean, do you care when some victim? It'd be like if you had some mentally ill victim laughing at you on the side of the street corner. You see schizophrenics talking to themselves, laughing. Like, oh, don't laugh at me, you schizophrenic. I feel bad. You're laughing at me. Now, and that's what it is. I mean, you've got mentally ill people trained to accept total tyranny. And then if they laugh at you, I mean, I heard callers on the radio going, aha, you Republicans are mad we got Obamacare, aha, and they laugh like their team's winning. It's like a football game when the Republicans wrote the Obamacare. Well, Dan Bongion is a now retired senior Secret Service agent that led details all over the world with Obama and others, and he's going to be joining us. He's a pro-Second Amendment guy. There's also a funny conspiracy about him out there on the internet. So we'll be talking. We were just laughing during the break talking about it. So we're going to be talking to him here in just a moment. First off, ladies and gentlemen, I want to encourage all of you to remember the show is growing by leaps and bounds because you are spreading the word. And we're here defending the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. When you buy ProPure water filters with 10% off with promo code WATER, you don't just get a great water filter at the lowest price. You also, reaching over here to get my Survival Seed Vault, you also save a ton of money. And we also have the lowest price out there on the Survival Seed Vault. Great way to start your garden, your summer garden, your fall garden, a little late to do the spring garden. This is one of the best products out there, but we're carrying a whole line of seeds that for a year we've been investigating, looking at 6 different great products right now on InfoWarsStore.com. And when you go to InfoWarsStore.com and shop with the good guys, that allows me to hire reporters, video editors, to make more films, to do the nightly news, to have more researchers for the radio show. So again, ladies and gentlemen, you can also support the broadcast with Operation Sleeping Giant, where you can get a membership for $5.95 a month to see the nightly news, the video, the daytime show, all my films. 10 years up and running with PrisonPlanet.tv or InfoWarsNews.com. And it is 11 memberships for the price of one. So you will get one membership, create a generic username and passcode. You can share it where 11 people can be simultaneously logged on to watch the InfoWars Nightly News and so much more. Great way to wake people up and support our operation and pay for the bandwidth. PrisonPlanet.tv. And yes, this is the best deal we've got of all the seeds on the site. Survival Seed Vault, Garden in a Can. It is just thousands and thousands of seeds. Just a massive variety of non-GMO, non-hybrid, so they produce their own seeds. Later, you can replant. It's all there. Check it out, InfoWarsStore.com. Or if you have questions or want to order via the phone, 888-253-3139. Now, I think it's best to introduce our guest this way. This is our guest who recently retired to go into the private sector from the Secret Service. Dan Bongion, talking about the Second Amendment, extremely impassioned defense of our most basic of rights.
That flag represents something. Men and women have died horrible deaths. Horrible deaths. My uncle being one of them. Shot in the back in Vietnam to protect your very right. We live in a society of wolves. You do not fight back by creating more sheep.
Our next guest says there is no such thing as gun control, only people control. You just saw him giving a passionate speech at a rally in Maryland. Joining us now is former Secret Service agent Dan Bongion. Dan, thanks a lot for joining us. What do you mean there's no such thing as gun control, only people control? Tell me what that means.
Tucker, this is larger ideological ploy by this administration. They're not being authentic with America, whether it's the sequester, health care, or the gun control issue. What they do is they manipulate an emotional crisis, a national emotional crisis, to further an ideological agenda which involves the evaporation the slow disintegration of your civil rights, your liberties, your ability to live and let live. And it's a disturbing pattern that, frankly, is really starting to get under my skin.
All right, there you go, and it's under my skin. Dan Bongion joins us. And again, I saw this clip a while back and said that's the type of Secret Service or people in government, period, we need. That's, you know, founding father type statements we're hearing. Bongino.com is his website, and he's now left the Secret Service happily to start his own private, high-profile client list dealing with crisis and assessment mitigation. And he, again, graduated with honors out of the Secret Service Academy back in '99, and he's run high-profile operations all over the world with the POTUS, and so he's a senior guy when he left, and we're excited to have him on with us. And it's good to see people out there defending the Second Amendment so eloquently. So, Dan, good to have you on with us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Wow. So much is going on in the world. What do you make of now the move to have some of the victims, the parents, on Air Force One with Obama of Sandy Hook?
Well, listen, these are, unfortunately, these parents were subject to an unspeakable tragedy. I think everybody's life changed. Everybody knows where they were when they heard about these events in Sandy Hook. I know I was actually driving to a funeral for a family member, which just compounded my misery. But, Alex, guns don't have rights. People do. And that's one thing that's been lost in this. This is not about gun control. He's manipulating those folks and using them as political props to further an agenda that really has nothing to do, unfortunately, and I mean that, with actually preventing events similar to that from happening again. There are ways to stop any Sandy Hooks from happening in the future. But the president's really not interested in those. He's interested in political games, and that's what he's doing right now.
And that's why I wanted to get you on. The Secret Service, probably the leading experts worldwide in protecting a high-profile individual like the president that could have governments, terrorists, you name it, wanting to target them. What would you do as an expert to protect the schools?
Right. What's good for the goose is not good for the gander in these situations. What model of security that you know of, what model of security involves, unarmed security and all of these kind of nonsensical measures, gun-free zones? How come we don't do that when I was a Secret Service agent around the president? Well, you know what? We don't need guns here, folks. We're just going to declare a gun-free zone, 360 degrees around the president, going to walk around. If I were to say that, your listeners right now are probably laughing, like that's ridiculous. Of course, but it's not ridiculous when it comes to your kids. That's exactly, I just described to you exactly the security situation that your benevolent class of politicians, these so-called angels, and I use air quotes there, are prescribing for your children. No system that defends their kids, by the way, just yours. Now, you have things, armed school security, man traps, which we have situations where you can put they call it a man trap, a door that won't open until another door closes, one person at a time at schools. You have things like entering mental health records into NICS. Now, I'm a libertarian, so I'm always careful with that, but mental health records that have been vetted through some judicial review, entering them into NICS, which is the gun check background system. You have harsh penalties for criminals who misuse firearms. There are real things that have worked. None of them are in this legislation at all. This is, again, guns don't have rights. People do. They are taking away your rights. It has nothing to do with guns at all. This is a simple political ploy to get you all to applaud while your civil liberties continue to dissipate like an Alka-Seltzer tablet in a bad drink of water.
Well, expanding on that, we have the FBI crime statistics that are the model of statistics worldwide, because so many statistics are bogus, but these are 80 years old, where they collect them from thousands of jurisdictions, and 49% drop in violent crime since 1991, and they directly draw the line to the proliferation of the Second Amendment and the fact that criminals are scared in places like Texas or Arizona to break in somebody's house because they know there's a gun on the other side, but in Chicago or New York, where they've disarmed the people, the crime rates are the highest in the world. Right. In Chicago, even worse than Mexico, the murder capital as a country. The proof is right there. My own police chief here in Austin says, hey, you shouldn't have high-capacity mags, and you're with the criminals if you do that. Well, criminals are going to have high-capacity mags regardless. So, what do you say to those numbers?
Right. Well, You know, I can give you an on-the-ground example of this. I was a police officer with the NYPD and a Secret Service agent for a combined 16 years, 12 in the Secret Service, 4 with the NYPD. Alex, I never, ever arrested a criminal or investigated a criminal or, frankly, heard of an agent or a cop who was investigated or arrested someone who had a gun legally. I'm not saying legal gun owners occasionally are not involved in crimes, but the thing is, it's so exceedingly rare that to forfeit away your civil liberties for a group of folks, legal gun owners, that are not the problem, seems to me like an obvious scam. It's a scam. They're called lawbreakers for a reason. Alex, they don't give a damn, pardon my language, about the law. They don't care. They are not interested in your magazine limits. Matter of fact, you know who determines the amount of ammunition, amount of rounds you need in your firearm to defend yourself in a gunfight? Not you, not a bureaucrat. The bad guy attacking you does. When he stops shooting, then you're done too. Nobody, to have a bureaucrat like a Dianne Feinstein, so disingenuously, who's defended by men with guns, by the way, claim that if you're a talented shooter, whatever her ridiculous words were, you only need less than 10 rounds. It's so ridiculous that to any common sense thinking individual, you would almost laugh hysterically if you could evaluate this outside of the emotions attached to the issue. This is only going to impact law-abiding gun owners who have done absolutely nothing wrong. They just want to live and let live and be left alone by a government just absolutely obsessed with a further encroachment on your civil rights.
It's amazing. And then you see Bloomberg, who has up to 15 people on his, quote, security detail, and then they'll even rough people up, cameramen that come up and ask him questions. I mean, it's clear. The government wants to have the monopoly of guns, just like the greatest mass murderer in history said, political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. Mao Zedong wasn't for government gun control. What do you make, and again, he was a senior Secret Service agent when he retired to go into private security practice. Dan Bongion joins us. What made you leave the Secret Service and decide to go into the private sector?
Well, I resigned. I wish I had retired. I would have been able to keep my health benefits and pension and all of that. I did. My wife and I took an enormous financial hit. You know, Alex, there comes a point in your life where you have to determine. You know, my father said to me when I was younger, fight the good fight. And I'd say, well, what's the good fight? He said, well, that's for you to determine. And he got that from 2 Timothy 4:7. I fought the good fight. I've ran the race. I've kept the faith. I knew my good fight was this one. Our ideological battle in our generation is not what we went through in the Civil War, defending the country and abolishing the scourge of slavery. It's not our revolution where we fought for the very ideas of limited government freedom. That's not it. What we're fighting now is an ideology, a pernicious, dangerous, and historically deadly ideology that says that other men and women have been imbued with some special powers to reign over your life and take your liberty and to move forward. And this is somehow a benevolent way, knighted by the Lord himself, that these men should take control of your life. This is our fight. This is our time. I left because I knew that was my fight. And I knew with the Hatch Act, and it would be unfair, and it would be disingenuous to sit there and have to listen to any more of these speeches. And I would have died for the President of the United States no matter what. It's not a political thing. We're not a banana republic here. We're not a third world country. We do our damage at the voting booth. But I couldn't contribute to this anymore. You are either in this fight or you are not, folks. And if you are not, you are going to rue the day that you let this happen and know that today is the best it was ever going to be, that your children had less than you have and have no American dream because you refused to get in this fight. This is it. Right now, you're at the event horizon. Action matters.
Wow, I like this, what you're saying. You're absolutely right. We're at the crossroads. Now the future of this country has been set. Have you seen the video that started airing as a promo last week where MSNBC host, in fact, cue that up, guys. MSNBC host says your kids belong to the collective. Have you seen that?
I've heard of it. I didn't see the video, but I know exactly what you're speaking. I was afraid to watch it for obvious reasons.
But, I mean, it's so over the top how authoritarian the Democrats have become. Because I'm not even a Republican. I'm more of a constitutional libertarian. I mean, these people, I've read a lot of history books. I mean, these people are really creepy. And I'm having to argue with my wife, who's got a degree in French and history. She's wanting to get out of the U.S., and I respect the fact that, obviously you left the Secret Service, you can run for office and try to fight this. We should talk about that. But, I mean, it's just the creepy meter is broken. It's off the chart here with all the weirdness of these people.
Right, and don't you see what they're doing, folks? They're leveraging crisis. They're not crisis managing. They're crisis leveraging. They're using a national emotional crisis to get you to believe things that simply aren't true. Why is this country different than any country in the history of mankind? Why are we the most prosperous? Why is today, right now, the most prosperous human beings have ever had it in this place at this time? Because we were unique. We developed unique. That's an overused word. Not in this case. Men sat down and developed that piece of paper, that Constitution, which for the first time in human history, the side that won in a battle decided not to take more power, but to limit their power. They realized that the real power was in the hearts of individual men, not of government ruling over them. It was such a unique situation. It was unheard of that we had won this revolution, and the men who had led it didn't draw up a constitution that made them monarchs and kings and aristocrats. It made them civil servants. It made them servants to the people. That's what made
They tried to make George Washington king, and he got really angry.
Right, he left. What is it what King George said after he stepped down after his second term, although he could have ran, and you and I know this, Alex, he could have ran 4 more times and won each time. He said, if this is true, he must be the greatest man who ever lived. These men understood the danger of losing your liberty, your real liberty, something you can put teeth in, your economic liberty, your money, your healthcare liberty.
Well, look, they demonize America all day looking at our problems, but if you look at other cultures, it's been the best, and liberty created so much wealth that now a bunch of spoiled brat collectivists who don't dream of building their own world, their own creation, they dream of making us be their slaves, and so the bigger the government gets, the more power they have. Let's play the clip of the MSNBC host in a promo, Melissa Harris Perry, saying your kids belong to the collective, and folks, they mean to the state. Here it is.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Dan, what'd you make of that?
What human being on the planet, the real question for any of your listeners who may be on the other side of the political fence, what human being on the planet cares about your children more than you do? What? The answer is none. There is no way that is true. There is no collective. There are groups of human beings who live in this land at this time right now under this governing system. Alex, there is no collective. There's no collective mind. There's no collective money. It's individual money taken by people. There is no collective heart or mind that cares about your kids either.
Well, statistically, the government is 5 to 7 times more likely to abuse children than any other group. That's the Justice Department's own numbers. I mean, this is the worst group to give kids to. Look at North Korea. Look at Nazi Germany. I know you know all this. I want to come back and talk about how we take this country back and what you're doing over there on your website. Very, very interesting site. We'll give that address out to all of the viewers and the listeners, Bongino.com. Very exciting to see libertarian constitutionalists like yourself out there speaking out and running for office. We're going to come back and talk about what you're doing and where you see this political fight going. Straight ahead on the other side, I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. It was an inside job, just like it always is. Dan Bongino's got a big announcement tomorrow. I know what it is, but we'll tell you about it tomorrow. Statewide run in Maryland. Boy, they sure need it. They're trying to take the guns there right now. I was asking you during the break about your philosophy and when it all clicked for you, and that was pretty powerful. Please repeat that, Dan.
Well, I was at when it all really punched me in the gut. I was at the USC campus listening to a speech, by the president, and I just watched as all these 18 and 22-year-old kids just sat there in just endless rounds of applause over these just old, formerly, deadly, historically ideas that were just being regurgitated in such flowery words, and I just could not believe it. I say it almost half jokingly, but not. There was one of those Star Wars films where the Natalie Portman character, says, "Here it is, it all collapses to thunderous rounds of applause." And
yeah, this is how liberty dies. Not with people booing it, but with thundering applause. And you're sitting there, you described it as he promotes total collectivism, and the kids are soaking it in. Your spirit made a decision right there to break with it.
Yeah, I couldn't take it, and I knew it was going to be just a devastating financial decision and hardship on my wife and I. But in order to avoid just embarrassing the White House completely and leaving there, I fulfilled my assignment. I waited a couple months to not make because I really wanted it. I did not want it to be a distraction from my real messenger, and I just walked away. And I remember my boss being just stunned, but that was it. That was the moment I went back to my, family and just. I said, Paula, I can't do this anymore. I mean, if you are not doing something, action matters. You are not part of the problem, Alex. You're the problem. You are allowing this to happen. This whole, I give up. We've lost a few political fights. You don't get to give up, folks. It's not a golf game. You can't walk off the golf course. The president's not. This is a boxing match. When you stop punching, I got news for you. The other guy's hitting you harder. You don't have a choice. This is your fight.
That's right. People think, it's work to fight evil. Folks, total authoritarianism is taking over. Okay, that's the way it always works. They're not going to give up, and if we just stood up, we beat them. That's why it's very exciting that you're going to run for a statewide office in Maryland. And do you have children?
I have 2 daughters, yeah.
Well, I have 2 daughters and a son. And let me tell you, it's beyond anger, it's beyond disgust, it's love. But the feelings I have when I look at them and I think of how corrupt this system is, it is a feeling of determination to stand against this evil.
Yeah, I mean, how are we going to look our kids in the eye and say, Isabel, that's my daughter, this is the best it's ever going to be? Daddy stole away your American dream because we had a so-called save, and I use that term loosely at best, save our economy now. We couldn't deal with 6 months of economic hardship for continued prosperity. We had to steal away this is the best car you're ever going to drive in. This is the nicest home you're ever going to live in. This is the finest food you're ever going to eat. This is it today.
And you're going to have TSA grab all over you when it's all theater.
Right, you're going to have drones watching you in a Starbucks. The president's AG couldn't even answer the question that if you're in a Starbucks with your kid on United States, on our country.
I've got to ask you this. What do you make of the 2 billion bullets they're buying, the armored vehicles, all that craziness?
The fact that they won't answer the question is more disturbing than anything. I mean, they create their own paranoia. What do they need that for? Just answer the question. It's our money. Our tax dollars. Why in a recession would you need that? I find it ironic they put out a release saying they were cutting all this training because of the sequester. Well, what are you doing with the bullets then if you don't need them for? I don't understand.
They're trying to drop the supply.
Yeah, I think it's an economic battle against law-abiding firearm owners who, if you can't get the ammo, it's not the gun that does the damage. It's the bullet. When
people can follow you on Facebook by going to Bongino.com and everywhere else. Promise to come back on in a few weeks after you've announced tomorrow.
Will do, Alex. Thanks for the time.
All right, I'll say bye to you during the break. Wow. I like that guy. I know I gave the number out and we ran out of time, and then I got Bongino on, Dan Bongino. Let me tell you, I'm a good judge of character. And I've watched some of his speeches. Man, that guy is for real. Doesn't mean I agree with everything he stands for because I haven't had time to follow his full platform. He'll be announcing a big statewide thing tomorrow in Maryland. Put it to you that way. It's just that, man, it's good to talk to people that aren't scum. Like the sheriff of Milwaukee County. Because it gets to me, man. It gets to me watching the evil just run wild. And then people act like you're weird if you get upset by it. I just am sick of it. I'm sick and tired of it. And I demand that men wake up and say no. No, 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 no. Because if we were all doing our job, we wouldn't be in this position right now. I tell you, these globalists are evil. And the only thing they got on us is that they're so evil that I guarantee you, if I start trying to wake up somebody like Bongino, at first he would think I was crazy. He said he liked the Piers Morgan stuff and has followed the show before. But still, The problem is people don't want to admit evil because it would be too crazy to admit it. Because it's so over the top. It's like if you saw your neighbor burying dead bodies in the backyard, there have been cases where people don't call the police because they just can't imagine it was the shape of a body and that they saw the guy doing it. It's learned helplessness. And so I understand why people don't want to believe this because it's so over the top. It came out for about 8 years that Hitler, it was about 7 years, that Hitler was killing people and arresting people en masse and stuff. And the U.S. newspaper said it was, they didn't call it a conspiracy theory. They called it rumors. They didn't use the term conspiracy theory back then. It was J. Edgar Hoover put out the term conspiracy theory, saying that there's no organized crime. That's a conspiracy theory. That was in, I think, in 1952. And I had that one time from some PBS special around here. We've played the clip years ago with his famous congressional testimony on film saying there's no such thing as La Cosa Nostra and it's a conspiracy theory. But the point is that they called it rumors. And then it was rumors that Stalin, because even under Stalin, our media was saying he was good. And then by the late 40s, it was, oh, there are rumors Stalin's killing people. Yeah, just 30 million it later came out, the Russians admit. You know what? I just don't get it. It'd be like if I told my kids a monster's real, they'd say, no, it's not, no, it's not. Because they want to deny it. But see, these monsters are real. So we got a guest coming up, and then I'll go to Daniel and Solomon and a bunch of other people that are patiently holding, Alan and Terry and Shirley. Am I pronouncing that right? Shirlea? I can't pronounce. Shirlea, it's a cool name. Alaska. But, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I've been pretty crazed lately, on air and off air. I told my wife this, and she's learned that when I do this, like every year, every 6 months, she's like, oh, my God, something's about to happen. I'm not going to exaggerate here with you. I'm just going to be honest with everybody. The level of, I don't even get chills anymore now as much as I used to about the New World Order. Now I get, like, fight mode, okay? I mean, it's to that point, like, it's right there. I mean, I guess Obi-Wan Kenobi would call it a disturbance in the Force, or Darth Vader, the last time I felt it was in the presence of my old master. And to be sarcastic, to keep using the Star Wars analogy since Bongino did. Now, every minute, I was sitting there this morning after I'd exercised, sitting there in the edge of the woods, and I was just, like, totally overwhelmed with, my God, it's about to get really bad. I don't know what it's going to be, a nuke going off. Maybe North Korea is about to go nuclear. I don't know. Maybe they're about to hit Japan with a nuke or something. I don't know. All I know is my spidey sense is 10 times what it's ever been. Just like danger, Will Robinson, danger, danger, danger. I mean, that's all I can tell you. And I'm sure you're feeling it. My wife's feeling it. Pray to God for protection, because I'm telling you, the hammer's about to come down. Oh, ladies and gentlemen. I just ran down the other side of the building. I was having a quick meeting on some equipment purchases. Nobody in radio or TV works like I do. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just letting you know why I'm out of breath. This building is so big. With the construction we're doing, I have to go around the building to get to the other side. And I'm certainly not in good shape like basketball players. I just ran down here to get back on air as we expand the info war here. We're going to go to our guest here in just a moment. But first, I want to play a short clip of Biden calling for a new world order, which separately the FBI is taught doesn't exist, and you're a terrorist if you say this exists. So I guess people better talk to Biden. Maybe he's gone insane because he's talking to the Import-Export Bank about something that doesn't exist. Here it is.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order, because the global order is changing again. And the institutions and the rules that worked so well in the post-World War II era for decades, they need to be strengthened, and some have to be changed. So we have to do what we do best. We have to lead. We have to lead. We have to update the global rules of the road. We have to do it in a way that maximizes benefits for everyone, because obviously it's overwhelmingly in our interest. This is not a zero-sum game. It's overwhelmingly in our interest that China prosper, that Mongolia prosper, that nations big and large, east and west. We have to level the playing field so that American companies and workers can compete in the world, that the competition is fair.
Okay, so he's talking about a new world order, and hey, that sounds good. Everybody, you know, is fair. Everybody's happy. Apple has plants that are the worst in China, with people committing suicide off of them, to the point they had to put suicide nets up. And meanwhile, the Democratic Party, to a great extent, and a lot of Republicans as well, are so dumb, they don't even know that clips are reusable. Here's State Rep out in Colorado. I just can't get over this thing. We got to ban over 15-round mags because you throw them away after that. You know, you can only use them once. The bullets are gone, like it's a disposable air freshener can or something. So a lot of it isn't they're just authoritarians. They are up on top. They actually believe Obamacare is going to give them free health care, when on record it's already doubling it this year, doesn't cover pre-existing conditions, sets up death panels, and was written by the insurance companies, written by Mitt Romney. I mean, it's all just one. When he says our interest, he means the big mega banks that want to get rid of the middle class. Here is this clip. Go ahead.
I do think that we can pass those. And just very briefly, to your last question, what's the efficacy of banning these magazine clips? I will tell you, these are ammunition. They're bullets. So the people who have those now, they're going to shoot them. And so if you ban them in the future, the number of these high-capacity magazines is going to decrease dramatically over time, because the bullets will have been shot and there won't be any more available.
Diane DeGette, Democrat from Colorado. And, I mean, how do you deal with people that really think the government's going to give them everything free forever and then it won't wreck the society? How do you deal with people that don't know crimes dropped 49% because of the proliferation of firearms, FBI statistics? How do you deal with people that think that GMO food is healthy and that there shouldn't be labeling? How do you deal with people that support the government saying they're going to put aspartame in milk and thousands of other products and not tell you what's in there? I mean, this is way past liberal conservative, folks. This is about common sense and a society gone mad. Now, you know, I've got InfoWarsHealth.com, and I like to, every week or so, get a guest on who's involved with the Youngevity products that I'm heavily involved with, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, all of it. And I was looking at a list of people I could have on that are involved. There's a bunch of really cool people we're going to be getting on very soon, including some, well, I'm just going to leave it at that. But I saw this name, I said, Mike Glenn, the Stinger? I wasn't even a big basketball fan because I didn't watch a lot of TV. You know, I'd watch the playoffs with my mom, who was a bigger sports fan than my dad of basketball. Well, my dad was always working too hard to get into sports. But I mean, I was a fan of the Stinger. I said, Mike Glenn. And then I went, wait a minute, I've seen him do interviews. And one time I was staying at somebody's house and read a few chapters of one of the books about, the real black history in this country and some of the amazing people that you never hear of. And then I was kind of in a quandary. Should I have him on about Youngevity and InfoWarsHealth.com, or should I get Mike Glenn on about his books, which I've ordered and I'm going to end up reading? Because I remember going, wait, I read part of one of his books and had to leave the book there. And because so many times you're busy, you don't finish a book, even though it was interesting. I didn't have time. I was visiting some friends a few years ago. So I wanted to get him on today about, also he has a basketball camp for hearing impaired children. He's just a really, really, really interesting individual, MikeGlenn.com. And he's the guy that got so many of the other big NBA people, like Theo Ratliff and others that we've had on the show, got them on the Youngevity products. And those testimonies are up at InfoWarsHealth.com. But these really are miraculous. But I don't have him on the infomercial. We'll plug it later in the hour and go to some of your phone calls here. But, Mike, it's good to have you on. The Stinger.
So much. It's a pleasure for me to be on. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Just happy to spend some time with you, sir.
You bet. Wow. Well, where should we start? Talk about your books, because what's interesting about them is you don't just cover, you know, the folks that are more famous. Some of them are in there. But you talk about just how interesting, because I personally, like Buffalo Soldiers, all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, black history in America is not exactly what we're taught on the nightly news.
Well, you are so right, Alex. Appreciate you asking me about that. And, Alex, I grew up in a household where my dad was a coach as well as a teacher, and my mom was a teacher. So we were reading. We had study periods even in the summertime. And Mom had this question after the study period. She said, okay, now what lesson did you learn from what you read? So we always had to be able to tell a lesson that we learned. If we had a speaker in school or we read a magazine, newspaper, or book, she wanted to know what lesson did you learn. So this kind of stayed with me, Alex, throughout my life. And after retiring from pro basketball, I decided to write some books and center them around lessons that I learned, whether they were lessons from my collection of books. I own thousands of books that I've collected, rare first edition books. And I decided to just start writing series on lessons that I've learned. And my first one was I went to my NBA teammates, ex-teammates, foes, opponents, and it was titled Lessons in Success from the NBA's top players. And I went to all of those players, Alex, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Karl Malone, John Stockton, all of them. And I asked them what's the two most important lessons they learned to be successful in basketball and life. So the first book was very interesting. A lot of coaches, a lot of teams, a lot of individuals bought it. All the NBA players love to get other people's perspectives on what made them successful. And then I did a lot of other history and research through the books in my library as well and started writing biographies. I started writing about the integration of sports history. I looked at history before Jackie Robinson. I looked at African-American athletes that preceded Jackie Robinson who were kind of just swept under the carpet, forgotten, and never mentioned again. So I told a lot of their stories in one of my books. And then I also wrote on Frederick Douglass, the pre-Civil War years of Frederick Douglass and his impact on America and society. So those were kind of some passionate areas that I've written about, talked about, gone to a lot of places and discussed them and really enjoy even exhibiting, Alex. I collect rare first edition books, so oftentimes I will bring with me some first edition books so people can see the power of these books as documents of American history. For one of my favorite ones is Frederick Douglass's book, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, written by himself, which he wrote in 1845, and it was published in the Anti-Slavery Office of Boston. So I'll take this book and I'll show them when it was published and the content, but the book itself is a document of history. So I kind of combine all of these things together and make it very fun and interesting and bring history to life and try to, foster literacy and research and study as well.
You know, I've actually got a painting of Frederick Douglass in there in the office. We're going to create a new set that's got a bunch of paintings of famous people that I admire. Wow. And I've actually read the book you're speaking of probably 20 years ago. Yes, amazing quotes and ideas about liberty. In fact, I paraphrased one of them. He said, liberty and freedom is never given. It's taken, it's demanded, to paraphrase that quote.
Absolutely right. What a tremendous job. You're so right, Alex, and it's so worthy of everybody. It should be a must-read for all who haven't read it and in all schools as well, because he certainly was a proponent of that, fighting for liberty continuously and agitating and petitioning and understanding how freedom works and how things that are not for your freedom work against you. So one of his first speeches, as a matter of fact, my mom, one of her favorite quotes was this one that I've kind of carried with me, and I've labeled one of my exhibits that it was, as Frederick Douglass, as a young boy, about 8 years old, Sophia Old, who had, and her husband Hugh, had been the people that were in charge of him, had enslaved him, and she had taught him how to read at his request, and he learned a few things, and they were going to show her husband Hugh what he had learned, and all of a sudden Hugh said, "Hey, what are you doing teaching that slave how to read? Don't you know that if he learns how to read, he won't be fit to be a slave anymore?" So that was a quote that Frederick Douglass remembered the rest of his life, my mom's favorite quote as a teacher, and it was kind of important to me. Once you learn how to read, it won't be fit to be a slave anymore. And it was a proponent of, he said that was the pathway from slavery to freedom was through reading and literacy and learning who you are, what liberty is. Mine
as well. I mean, growing up, I happened to get into history books just because they were so action-packed every page.
Yes, sir.
And then if you know history, you know how humans act over and over again. So I can now recognize the oppression and the modern attempts at slavery today that are more sophisticated. Like I have all the Department of Education documents
Wow.
And they're in Charlotte Iserby's phone book-sized book when she was the head of policy there, where they actually planned to dumb everybody down so they could be brought into a collective. And they're now coming out saying, you know, the state owns your children and the state will control what you do. What's your view on the new authoritarianism we see growing today?
I think you got some excellent points there, and I think that's why it's so important that we continue to read, to study, to learn, to look before the surface, because, Alex, you're so right. Everything is so short-term, surface, look at the top, keep it moving, short attention span, so people really never look below the surface and see the long-term implications and what this actually said and take time to dig deeper. I totally agree with you. I think there's so much of that in society today that everything, rather than being elevated, you don't have people in positions that can help elevate the thinking, the thought process that goes into progression. You have so many people all across the pages of the book that now are just talking, and there's really not much substance to it. So I think there is a dumbing down for sure, and even when you read from people of a century ago, you're, wow, look at how they wrote and thought. It was a lot that went into it, maybe more so than we see on a day-to-day basis today.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, there's so many great quotes I just pulled up here of Frederick Douglass, but people might not get all they work for in this world, but they must certainly work for all they get.
Yes.
And then he goes on to say, this is a shortened version of it, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will.
Yes. That was one of his most famous ones as well. And, you know, he was just saying that you have to continue to work and to agitate and to knock down walls of resistance and to fight hard for what you want. And that, you know, it's a glorious quote that very, very well said by Frederick Douglass in 1857. So, yes, he has some fabulous quotes. I mean, all of his 3 books were just fabulous documents of American history, and good history books as well as just perspectives on liberation and self-empowerment.
Mike Glenn, the Stinger, NBA legend, is our guest, MikeGlenn.com. Here's another one. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those of whom they oppress. You see, they want to break us now with the whole, you know, police state, the wars, all of it. Mike, what is your view on where humanity is today?
Well, I think there's still, as long as there are voices out there, you always have both sides of the coin out there, and I think we have to be really diligent in keeping forth the positive voices on humanity, to break down barriers that separate people, bring people together, show a light of leadership in a progressive way that gives opportunity, supports working hard, achieving goals, believing you can do things, not allowing people to suppress you.
Exactly, but see, Frederick Douglass talked about a real progression, meaning humans getting better. Yeah. What about the socialists that take the word progressive and have now created counterfeits? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, and you have to keep your voice heard. I think, Alex, you certainly, and the more we hear voices that show another way, a better way, I think through all these voices that it gives opportunity for people to find a best path. As long as they believe that they can do it, as long as they have the energy to fight, to push, to achieve, to learn, to grow, they'll create those opportunities. So that's one thing I do, Alex, whether it's through nutrition, whether it's through history, whether it's through deaf people learning to be assimilated into mainstream. I want people to know that they can empower themselves. They can have their dreams. They can live their dreams. They can accomplish things, and the self-empowerment.
Well, Mike, that's what I picked up. That's what I picked up reading one of your books, is that I get the thrill out of teaching somebody something, or I get the thrill out of seeing people excel. Yeah. And there are just so many out there that are so pitiful, they think when someone else excels, that's bringing them down. And there are people that have excelled that think they excelled by bringing others down, and it's just really sad. Here's one more Frederick Douglass quote.
Yes.
The life of a nation is secure only while the nation is honest, truthful, and virtuous. But there's so many unhappy people out there, and I think they're unhappy because they're not building others up. Tell us about your foundation and the basketball camp, and how many folks that have been deaf or hearing impaired that you've helped.
Well, thanks very much, Alex. Yeah, my dad actually started the sports program there at Georgia School for the Deaf before I was born, so he coached every sport they had there at the deaf school, and so I grew up loving basketball, and I would go to basketball camp, and I noticed that my deaf friends could never go. I spent countless hours at the deaf school. They had the dormitories there. I stayed in his classrooms, went to the dormitories, went to the gym, went to all the practices, and I noticed they could never go to camp. They were always sad. In the summer, I would ask them, did you guys go to basketball camp? And they said there was no camp. So, Alex, I kind of made a promise to myself that one day I would like to start a camp just for deaf kids, because I thought they deserved a chance to go. They were great basketball players. They loved the game like anybody else did. So why shouldn't they have an opportunity to live their dreams and go as far as their talents would take them? So when I got to the NBA, I talked about it at several places, and as a member of the New York Knicks, I started the nation's first basketball camp for deaf kids. This was 33 years ago. So I started a free camp. First, I had about 30 kids to come to that first camp on Long Island, New York, at Milneck School for the Deaf. And then I started expanding it. Girls and boys and kids were coming from all across the country to this free camp, and it meant so much to them to have an opportunity to go to camp, to include, to be included, to interact with other kids, to meet pro NBA players, to come and sign autographs and take pictures. It was just the best week of their life. So I decided that each year I would have this camp, and I would dedicate each week to tell the students this will be the best week of your life. So all of our staff members, we tell them on the first day, welcome, we're glad to have you here. This is the camp for you, and our mission is for you to have the best week of your life. So each year I average from 80 to 100 kids, and you take that over the 33 years. Some years I would do 2 camps, one in New York and one in Atlanta. Now I just do the one in Atlanta. Every summer we start on Father's Day. It's kind of a tribute to my dad, who he's passed on now, but the heritage, the legacy from him is this camp, and it kind of lives through me. And so we start on that day, and we have kids. And Alex, it's just the best week of my life. I mean, all the coaches are there because they care. Nobody is there because they're getting money to be, how much money am I going to get? It's all about caring about the kids, giving them an opportunity, loving the game of basketball, and just having as much fun as you can with it. So it's a blessing in my life, and I'm just so blessed to have people like Youngevity that support. We give them nutrition. Dr. Wallach has come in and talked to them about nutrition to help their health, help their game. So we expand them. Martin Luther King Jr., the third brothers come in, Andrew Young. I mean, we've just had not only basketball players, not only people in nutrition, but people from various walks of life, other sports. Roddy White, all-pro football receiver, came in and talked to us a couple of years ago. He said, I've never been to a basketball camp, and certainly never been to a camp for deaf kids, but it's one of the best camps I've ever been to. The kids loved him. I mean, just the hugs, the love, the real from heart to heart, Alex, cannot be beat. And so I think it's really a model, my camp is, where you got girls and boys. I have kids that can hear also. They have to come to the camp. I tell them, look, you may have a deaf coach, you can have some deaf teammates, but I want you to learn to get along with kids that are very different from you. They may speak different, look different, may not speak at all, but I want y'all to get along and form a basketball team, and we're going to play ball, and that's what we do every summer, and we love it.
Well, I tell you, people are blessed people to go to that, and it's another example of private individuals taking action, building their dreams, and helping others. Yeah. Mike Glenn is our guest. I tell you, when I saw that name on a piece of paper, I said, wow. He's doing interviews about health and the things you discovered with that, but I said, I want him on about all this other stuff that I knew you were doing. So the Stinger is on with us right now, MikeGlenn.com, and we're going to post this video of this radio interview. If you're a TV viewer, you're obviously seeing it now, but for radio listeners, by tomorrow, we'll have this interview posted up at InfoWarsHealth.com if you're a radio listener and want to be able to see the TV side. We're going to go to break and come back and talk about health issues, Youngevity. You were one of the people that got into it very, very early, and you've gotten so many other NBA people into it as well, because anything I promote is something I truly believe in. And Youngevity and the products at InfoWarsHealth.com are the best out there. But also, it funds our operation. Just like you were saying, Youngevity helping fund stuff for deaf kids. I don't think people know that Dr. Wallach's won against the Food and Drug Administration himself 3 times, with other lawyers 7 times. We've had some of those lawyers on. These are the famous cases that allow supplementation, period. And I just can't believe the type of guests we get on, but these guys never brag about themselves like Dr. Wallach and others. So we'll brag on them with Mike Glenn, the Stinger. Straight ahead, I'm Alex Jones. Well, we've got the Stinger on with us here. Mike Glenn, a very famous NBA player. For those of you that don't follow the NBA, like I didn't follow it much, and I always like watching the Stinger. But I guess people like the guy that's a little bit smaller than everybody else who's kicking their butt. I think that might be what it is. Is that why you were so popular, Mike?
Yeah, that's part of it, man. The little guy, and I always shot the ball so well from the outside. That's how I earned the nickname, the Stinger, Alex. So, and then I played the game like you try to live. You just play it as an expression of who you are. So, played hard and played fair, and I think people like the way I played the game too.
You've got a film coming out that just won a big Christian award, and you're going to be doing screenings on that. The system obviously doesn't want films like this out there, but it's got some really good reviews. Tell us about that.
Yeah, thanks very much, Alex. It's called The Spirit of Love Movie.com. TheSpiritOfLoveMovie.com. And it traces my growing up around deaf kids, and then it goes all the way, goes forward to my running this basketball camp for deaf kids, kids coming in and different personalities and characters, and going through the camp and having an all-star game at the end where we play against very good kids that can hear and talk. So it's a great movie. I mean, so many great messages of sharing, inclusion, and it's like the film says, The Spirit of Love Movie.com, the Mike Glenn story. So we were in Texas during All-Star Weekend at the Texas Christian Film Festival, and we won the most inspirational movie of that festival. And then we have 4 out of 5 doves from that rating agency as well. So right now we're doing screenings. We're looking for the right distributor. My producer, Dollar is out of Denver. And so we got a screening in Denver in May. We have one in Atlanta coming up in May. And so we encourage people, just go to thespiritoflovemovie.com. We got the Facebook and all those social media things, Alex, and I'm not the best at, but we got it there, so they can interact that way as well.
Well, very exciting what you're doing. I mean, already so successful monetarily, everything, and to still be working so hard. That's what it's all about. Mike Glenn is our guest. I wanted to have some positive things today. Now, you're also on the sports advisory board for Youngevity, which is, by the way, folks, growing to be one of the biggest vitamin mineral companies out there. And that's why I chose them as a sponsor a few years ago, because I'd seen amazing effects here on crew members, even though it's not advertised as weight loss, losing 97 pounds, myself and stamina, because I'd gotten out of shape doing nothing for about 10 years. My mother, triathlete, just says it's incredible. And it's all available at InfoWarsHealth.com, and your purchase there on the site at InfoWarsHealth.com, I should add, also funds our operation to a great extent and what we're doing. So you're buying from the good guys and helping us build our liberty-oriented media organization. But you got Theo Ratliff and other famous NBA stars in on it. Theo was going to have to retire. That's on record. Gave him, 10 more years in it and $30-something million. Break down your experience with Doc Wallet, when that started, and why you promote Youngevity.
Well, thanks very much, Alex. About 14 years ago, a friend of mine named Phil Oliver, who worked in sickle cell, and Doc had helped him with a lot of sickle cell patients with how they could be healthier through mineral nutrition. And so he insisted, he was very persistent, and he insisted that I try these minerals. And so I did use them, and it really helped me tremendously, and I started sharing the story with others. And Theo is a very interesting story also, because I was talking to one of the other players on the Hawks. I was doing color analysis for him on TV, and he'd had some problems, the health problems that he couldn't find a solution to. And Theo overheard me. I wasn't even talking to Theo. And Theo was having problems himself. He had a detached bone, and I think you've had him on, so he's probably gone over.
Got to go over it again. It's important.
Okay. Theo had a detached bone in his hip. That was his biggest problem. And in his knee, he had bone-to-bone arthritis. It would swell so big after games, they would have to drain it. He had a problem with his ankle. He had a problem with his wrist and a degenerative disc in his back. Theo was finished. That's why Philadelphia traded him to Atlanta. They knew the guy was at the end of his rope, and his career was going to be over. So he was facing all of these surgeries. The doctors could not help him. And so he said, Mike, I want to talk to you about what you talked to Alan about. So we took him out to dinner. We told him he was mentally deficient. He would never get healthy through all the surgeries and all the things that they were recommending to him. So we put him on 90 essential nutrients. He was very diligent. We introduced him to Doc. Theo regrew cartilage in his knee. His back was fine. They gave him MRIs. They did all kind of things, and Theo was fine. So he signed several more contracts. He got everybody's family on it. Theo became a big proponent for Youngevity. And Phil Oliver, the guy that introduced me, and we said, man, we need a drink, an energy drink, a nutrition drink that we can put Theo's picture on and we can really share it with other athletes. So we tossed around and came up with the idea of rebound, because it's a basketball term to rebound the basketball, and he rebounded his career. So we came up with the name Rebound. And so Doc Wallach and Steve Wallach and all Richard Renner, they all worked with us, and we came together. They had a wonderful product. We sampled the different flavors, and we came up with one. There are a couple that worked very well, and had one with no green tea for zero caffeine effect. And from there, Rebound hit the market about 7 years ago, and it has not stopped. It's just grown like wildfire. And Alex, I'm so appreciative of you also furnishing this voice to be heard about nutrition, about Rebound. We've seen instrumental growth. Other NBA players are taking it, other football players, baseball players, little leaguers. Everybody is beginning to see they can have a real nutritious advantage. That's what athletes live for. We live for that little bit of difference, because that's the difference.
Well, take Gatorade. Gatorade's got 3 ingredients, Youngevity products up to 90. Yeah. And I mean, here's the bottom line. I don't promote things that I don't believe in. And, you know, I told people buy silver when it was $4 an ounce, and it's gone up to 50 at some points, 30-something right now. I said get gold when it was, you know, $300 an ounce, and it's gone as high as $2,000. You know, the point is, I really promote what I personally decide to do. And they, you know, I mean, my dad's an oral surgeon and a dentist. He knows a lot of other physicians. He's in healthcare management, not just in dental stuff. And he says doctors are seeing classical scurvy with people that are on fast food diets and, you know, don't get the green leafy vegetables. No one will tell them you've got scurvy. No, hospitals don't even say eat fruit. No one will tell anybody that America has off-the-chart diabetes and off-the-chart cancer, because the fertilizers they're using have 3 chemicals or 3 minerals in them, not the 90. And it's not rocket science that people need the Rebound, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Pollen Burst Plus, all this stuff, and that's why we sell it at the lowest prices at InfoWarsHealth.com. People can sign up and get free shipping there when they sign up at InfoWarsHealth.com. You can sign up for auto ship and get free shipping. That's a big discount. You can pay $10 and become a distributor and get discounts. I mean, but bottom line, it's a win-win-win. I don't get taxpayer money to fund my operation like MSNBC. I have sponsors and I have products I sell that I believe in, and it's very, very simple. Look, I'm the same way. 3 years ago, hey, Youngevity's great. Yeah, I know who Wallach is. I believe in it. They'll be a sponsor. Kind of sat there. Then I watched my wife, my mother, my crew go crazy with it, and then I finally tried it. More stamina. I mean, all of it. One side effect is I feel like I'm 25 again and want to kick everybody's ass, but excuse me. But I mean, really, my body was missing out on this.
Oh, yeah. Everybody is. I mean, if you can't live a regular diet, live here in America, and not be missing some of those 90 essential nutrients. It's just impossible to do it. I don't care if you're an athlete, if you think you got the best nutritionists and doctors and all this, you'll be like Theo Ratliff, falling apart with the best money positions and everything all around you daily, and your body's falling apart. So he saw the picture, so everybody has. And I would just encourage him. I take 90 Essential daily also, and all of these former athletes, Alex, that I see, and all the retired players meetings and all of these things, so many hip replacements, knee replacements, and they're always asking me, Mike, ain't it hard for you to get up in the morning sometimes? And no, it's not hard for me to get up any morning at all. You know, I'm taking 90 Essential nutrients.
Listen, Ted Anderson had been to 3 doctors. He was going to have knee surgery. Mm-hmm. When I'd go up to Minnesota, the owner of this network we're on, he would hobble around all over the place, and then he went on all the Youngevity, and the surgery isn't needed. The pain is gone. I mean, break down from what you know from Dr. Wallach. What are the vitamins and minerals doing, and why won't the system tell people this? Because surely the system knows this as well. I guess they want you to be sick so they can do surgery on you, or what's going on?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. As you know, there's so much money in the industry, so many lobbyists, so much money. Every commercial you see, you're going to be totally inundated with all these messages and images of this is how you go to be healthy. And anytime you hear something contrary to that, you just automatically go against it. Like, no, that's not what I heard. That's not what I saw. So it takes a really open-minded person to empower themselves to have health and have a better life. And that's the message of whether it's history or science or nutrition and health. You have to empower yourself to make a change in your own life. And so what happens to athletes, Alex, is we sweat out all of our nutrition at an accelerated pace. So that's why we don't have calcium. That's why our bones get brittle. That's why they need so many knee replacements and hip replacements. It's so common. And then you have things from diabetes and other things because we sweat out daily from all the practice, all the sweat. We lose a soup of nutrients, not just one. You can't just take 2 or 3 nutrients and replace the whole soup that you're sweating out daily. And so we have to get this message to athletes when they take it, when they rebuild. We just do it at an accelerated pace. Everybody's going to happen. For everybody, if you're losing your nutrients, you're going to have some kind of disease or illness as a result from it. It's just a cause and effect situation. So now we get a lot of athletes to understand that you have to really. So I have to take it twice a day. I'm still working out. I'm still maintaining. I'm still very active. I'm the analyst for the Atlanta Hawks. So I'm traveling all over the place and doing a lot of work like that. So like Dr. Wallach, man, Doc is like the best athlete. I tell him the only doctor I know better than Dr. J is Dr. Wallach. So we have athletes on it, and they're seeing the results.
By the way, meeting him in person and knowing, what is he, 72, 3, something?
That's right, in his 70s, yes, sir.
I mean, and the guy looks like he's 55.
And acts like it. He looks in an accent, man. He keeps moving, lecturing, doing over 300 lectures all across the world, and showing that energy and that charisma and the personality to keep this wonderful company going in the direction that it should be.
It's amazing, and again, being a quote my own salesman, to get to promote liberty, everything. Yeah. It's so easy to sell the truth. It's so easy to sell what you believe in. I mean, I couldn't imagine people out there that are selling things they don't believe in. I mean, it's so simple. Youngevity really is miraculous products, and I hope people will go to InfoWarsHealth.com. I hope that they will take action. The toll-free number is there on the site, because I just want to challenge people to try the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Rebound, the Pollen Burst Plus, all of it, the Ultimate FX, the Alex Pack, all of it, because once you actually try it and then make yourself continue to take it for a few months, if you don't see dramatic response, I'll eat my hat. The toll-free number for folks that want to call and ask any questions or sign up for the free shipping is 888-789-9277. Or again, the number is on InfoWarsHealth.com, 888-789-9277. Now, I'm here ranting and raving with the famous NBA player, the Stinger, who I know was everybody's favorite when I was growing up, because we all like seeing the little guy sit there and get around all the big guys and make all those impossible shots. Anything else you'd like to add about Youngevity before we move on to fatherhood? I know that's one of your favorite topics.
Yeah, well, just absolutely, Alex. And I think you hit on it, hit the nail right on the head. And you mentioned some outstanding products. And this company is built around the core essential products are minerals. And if some people don't have a ton of money, and that's what we tell them, look, you can just get some plant-derived minerals, some cherry minerals. They're only $20-something a piece. But you start with that. And once your mind and your body has been expanded, you're never going to go back. You're never going to go back to living without the nutrition. It's going to keep you healthy and energetic and moving forward. And people are going to be asking you, why are you feeling so good? What are you doing? I mean, it will show. And a Rebound product gives you energy. I mean, healthy energy, not just caffeine and taurine. It gives you nutrients that will give you the energy. And what I like to tell people, too, Alex, energy is attractive. I don't care if you're a male or female or an athlete. When you see an athlete running with good energy, you're attracted and you keep your eye on them. I don't care if it's a lady's walking, she's got that pep in her step and she's moving and she's got energy. That is what is attractive. The complainers, the whiners, that's not going to be attractive. It's not going to propel you forward. So get the nutrition, get your energy, get your health back, and then you can be what you're supposed to be. You've empowered yourself to move forward.
Absolutely. Now, not only you're out there helping deaf kids, not only you're out there helping people with nutrition, to spend a few minutes about, in closing, about your father, because there's such a war on fathers, a war on masculinity in this country. And so let's end it talking about fathers.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Alex. Boy, you sure hit all my passionate areas, man. We have one mindset there. And I like to see that. I like to promote fathers. There's so many fathers like my father that had a huge impact on my life, introduced me to sports, introduced me to deaf culture, left me a legacy. All I had to do was plug in and keep it going. The power, the energy, the foundation was already laid for me. There's so many fathers like that. Just last night on the Braves game, they interviewed Mr. and Mrs. Upton. And Mr. Upton played at Norfolk State. He was an All-American baseball player. He's a scout now for one of the teams. He has two sons that are playing for the Atlanta Braves. He has B.J. Upton and Justin Upton. And a couple of nights ago, they both homered in the last inning to win a ball game. And here this father was who had all but created this. I mean, this father had created two sons that were playing Major League Baseball and at a tremendously high level. So when you have that kind of love, that kind of support, that kind of direction, it can lead you to so many wonderful things. So we have to recognize them, Alex. We have to take time to thank these fathers and recognize these men and encourage others to do likewise. There are countless examples around us. We just don't always recognize them and pay homage to them for the outstanding work they've done.
Well, sure. I mean, if you look at the collectivists and the socialists, they want the state to be the dad. I read a Hitler quote about that yesterday, and they say if you build up fathers, you're tearing down single mothers. Single mothers do some incredible stuff, but you're 4 times more likely to end up in drugs or in prison if your dad isn't there. And so even if things aren't perfect, it still doesn't matter. Having the dad there is what it's all about, and it's like, you know, having 4 wheels on a car. The dad's 2, the mom's 2. You've got to have those 4 wheels, and that's why fatherhood is under assault, and you just can't argue with the results of having a dad at home.
Oh, you're absolutely right, man. And you're right. It is an assault on him. I mean, I even see cases in society that I'm very much familiar with. You saw Michael Jackson's there. They will always be kind of negative. He was too hard on Michael, this, that, and the other. He created the greatest singing group maybe in the history of the world. And his son, tremendous. And you look at Venus and Serena and what their dad, who had this dream that he could raise 2 daughters that could be great tennis players, and he went about doing it from looking at a video. So there are tremendous things that these dads are doing, and there are always people trying to put them down. So I totally agree with you, man. The fathers play a very, very important role. We start our camp on Father's Day. We acknowledge that right off the top. We have some dads that come who are coaches that are doing tremendous things. And the last thing, I got this one former pro player, Derek Anderson. He was homeless, man. He had a kid at 15, raised his son.
I want to hear this. Hold on. Let's go into the next segment. Then I'm going into overdrive, folks, to take your calls, and we have another guest in studio. Stay with us. The Stinger is our guest. We'll be right back. You know, a lot of times the truth is looking at you right in the face. If you look at animals, deer, cows, you name it, elephants. I've seen this on TV in Africa. They'll reach with their trunks way down into the mud and find the minerals and eat them. And you'll see deer go up to certain rock formations and just sit there eating, chewing on rocks. And you're like, oh, the deer are crazy. No, their body knows it needs minerals. And the old-timers, and this has just gotten bigger the last decade, you can get it in Himalayan salt, some of the trace stuff. You can also get it in some of the clays. But the old-timers across the board knew, especially when women were pregnant, that you were supposed to eat clay. People, oh, look at the old-timers eating clay. They're crazy. It's the real wide-spectrum minerals, and I'm done plugging that. We're back on fathers with the Stinger, Mike Glenn. Mike, finish up your point about the guy that was homeless.
Yes, Derek Anderson. Derek Anderson was a homeless young man, and he had a son. And at 15, he worked 2 jobs to raise this 1-year-old son, and often he would sleep in the gym. But he was so determined to be a success, practiced ball, got a scholarship, went to University of Kentucky, won a national championship, played in the NBA, and that gym that he slept in from being homeless as a 15-year-old is now named after him, and his 1-year-old son that he was taking care of now works with him as an adult in his business. And this is the kind of examples that the father can be, and I see it oftentimes, and we don't hear about it. He's the kind of person that comes to my camp that tells my deaf kids that they can be successful, and he's an example of that fatherhood starting at age 15 in those kind of circumstances to be a tremendous success. National championship, NBA champ, Olympian champ, Derek Anderson. So outstanding young man with a new book called Stamina out. And I just wanted to praise him as well, since you mentioned fatherhood and what a tremendous father he was and is to his son.
Well, it was Hitler that said, first you've got the women, first you get the women, then you've got the children, so follow the men. And socialists, authoritarians, fascists always target the children and the women and try to remove men out of the equation. And we're seeing that happening today, and that's why the work you're doing, Mike Glenn, MikeGlenn.com, The Stinger, NBA legend. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you again. And if you ever come through town in Austin, I'd love to get you in studio.
I will certainly do that, Alex. I appreciate you greatly as well. Now, you take care. All the best to you.
You too. Take care, folks. There goes Mike Glenn, and he's got some big dogs there in the background. Let him take care of those. I'm going to go into overdrive. Antonio Buehler, you remember about a year ago, got arrested filming cops in Austin. No criminal record, West Point grad. The point is that good people that aren't like criminals are now caught up in the system all the time. Veterans are having their kids taken for no reason. And if they can go after veterans and people, the sky is the limit. And a Travis County grand jury indicted him last week for filming the police. And Arde Saveda, the police chief, said, well, you can film police, you can't interfere. Well, there happens to be footage of what happened, not just from his camera, but from across the street. He's filming, the cops say, stop that. He's backing up, and the cops start going at him, and he says, what are you doing? What are you doing? So he hasn't arrived yet, but we'll... Oh, he is here? He is here? Okay, good. He just got here right on time. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take your calls for a couple segments while we get this set up. Then he's going to be coming in. We're going to Overdrive, internet only, Infowars.com, video streams at prisonplanet.tv. Back tonight, GCN. 7. I'm hosting the Nightly News. All right, folks, we're going to have Antonio Buehler, who's here in studio. If you're watching on TV, here's the new issue of our magazine. Look right here. People didn't believe this when I first reported it, because I was down at the Texas coast, and my crew was being given tickets and threatened with arrest if they handed out magazines anywhere downtown. It was so outrageous, listeners didn't believe me until I got back up here and showed the photos and the video online. Like I'm going to make this up. I mean, sometimes I get stuff wrong, folks, or I flip numbers around or, say somebody's name wrong. I almost said Patrick Douglas earlier. I know it's Frederick Douglass. But, I mean, there it is, getting the ticket in America. So we're going to be talking to him. He's now been indicted for filming police in Austin. I mean, super creepville. And the average cops in Austin, I've been all over the country, are pretty nice overall. Doesn't matter. They're being given orders and policies that are out of control. Let's go ahead and take some calls in this segment and the next. Then Antonio Buehler is going to be in studio with us. Daniel in Kentucky, thanks for holding, brother. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex, thanks for taking my call. The socialists and communists in the world, they want everything we've got. They want our money. They want your silver and gold. They want, of course, your guns. And as we heard...
I just realized it's the slaver media. That's why they always talk about black slavery all day, because they don't want you to recognize the current slaver. The globalists are slavers. They fit the definition. I'm going to do a piece on that. They are slavers, but they have fancy propaganda. Go ahead.
The most precious thing you have is your children. And they've admitted that. That's what they want, too. And I think we have a president that is looking for a crisis. I don't know if they want to do this over a period of time.
No, they're trying to start a civil war. Everybody agrees.
And, there's 4 crisis areas that maybe this is this North Korea thing. Maybe he's hoping something happens there. I think it could be the financial state of our country. We're $17 trillion in debt. And Ben Bernanke, back years ago, gave a speech, and he said if in a financial crisis he would do certain things. He would bring the interest rates down to 0. He would pump money into the economy. He would let the government buy securities, the Federal Reserve buy securities. One thing that he said that has not been done yet is devaluing the currency. And I think that's how they're going to if they're going to pay the debt back, that's how they're going to do it.
Oh, well, there's no doubt they're already doing it. It's just that it's like a couple pieces of the cake have been taken out, but soon to be the whole cake. And they're just going to absolutely wreck people's savings and future, which, again, will force us onto welfare, which is the goal. You're absolutely right, sir.
Another thing I want to make a comment about GMOs. It's through your program and Mike Adams and Natural News that my wife and I have learned about GMOs and the dangers of them. And I'll tell you a little story. Back in the fall, I took my wife in for a heart catheterization test, and I had a book with me that I was going to read while I was waiting called Seeds of Deception by Jeffrey Smith.
No, we sell it. Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, the doctor and his nurse, the cardiologist and his nurse, was going to come in and talk to us before the procedure, and I didn't have it with me. I had it on the little desk by where we were sitting. And he looks over and he said, Seeds of Deception, what's that about? And so he listened to me for about 3 minutes, tell him the dangers of GMOs and how the FDA released that into our system back in 95 and 96 without proper testing. And so he was really concerned about that. So I think we need to tell the InfoWars warriors to talk to people. Oh, yeah, listen, there are a lot of smart people, but they went to college, went to went and got their PhD or their doctorate, and they've always been so focused on the system. Now they're paying off their college bills. Now they're trying to raise their kids. Now they're trying to get home to go visit grandma. And before you know it, you're 80 years old and you're dead. Meanwhile, the globalists are just got all the time in the world social engineering. We need to become aware of it. But the fact that they'd come out and say, your children belong to the state. You can see the article up at drudgereport.com. It's on the left-hand side. Shows you how crazy these people are. All right, I'm going to do the whole hour, folks, in overdrive. And I'm doing the nightly news. And I'm staying up here till midnight fighting tyranny. Stay with us. All right, we're going to jam in some of your phone calls and have an in-studio guest and then back to your phone calls throughout the hour. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. Wow, we've got some amazing headlines here. Experiencing an erection of collectivism lasting 4 hours. Stop watching MSNBC. That's a funny John Rappaport headline. Ron Paul launches homeschooling program. Yeah, my wife wants to use it. He's not even a sponsor yet, but I will get him. MSNBC host, your kids belong to the collective. We've reposted that article that's up on Drudge right now. It is necessary and proper for the feds to regulate U.S. citizens from cradle to grave. Bilderberg 2013, probably England, possibly Germany. Breaking news there. Senator McCain says he doesn't understand an effort to protect the Second Amendment. I mean, it's just the Bill of Rights. Get rid of it. New DARPA robot looks like a human. A.T.F. to spy on gun owners via massive database. So I can finally relax into the fourth hour here. I was so angry today. Just so pent up over what's going on because I'm an extremist that I could barely even do the show. Let's take a few calls. And we've got our guest here in studio. Not only can you not hand out magazines or have an InfoWars bumper sticker in Austin, according to South by Southwest that command the police, you cannot film police now. So they're not going to like 300,000 bumper stickers that are going to be in the next magazine. That's 300,000 that are going to be hitting the streets in Austin. To be posted in legal and lawful areas, like on your own private property. But that's my answer. You don't like it? Take this. And if you give me a problem, it'll be 1 million next. Okay, let's go to Terry in Florida. You're on the air. We're not going to be pushed around anymore, folks. Terry, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for holding, brother. Go ahead.
God bless you. I have ordered some magazine a week ago, guys. You guys sent me so many, more than I ordered, and I appreciate it. And I have my fiance passed them in school. She works at a school down there in the college. She passing them out.
Well, let me give you a secret. Let me give you a secret. We get thrills like Johnny Appleseed planted apple seeds and Santa Claus brings presents. We like spreading info around. You understand? That's what we're looking for. That's what floats our boat, that Marilyn Monroe. Sorry.
I'm doing the job. Trust me. I do everything I could. I even write it down with markers everywhere I go to inform people about it, and I like the job that you do. And the thing I call about is the tax hike that Obama put in. Right now, I'm making a $1,200 check, and they take like $400+ out of it. and I'm forced to get insurance. And now my tax preparer was told me if I didn't have insurance next year, I would have to pay a $400 plus penalty on my tax.
Yeah, actually, I think that's going to be every month or so. It's $5,000 a year penalty, depending. And they got some waiver where it's only $2,000. It doubles the premiums already this year. It's meant to bankrupt everything. And of course, payroll tax went up for poorest Americans. I mean, it's just brutal. But again, only fascism with a collectivist bent. Fascism generally is collectivist at the grassroots. It could only come with a fake liberal, with a peace prize. It's all part of a sick joke psyop that's going on. So, Terry, good to hear from you. Thanks for holding. Shirlea in Alaska, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Cerilia.
Cerilia, very pretty name. Hey, I'm a redneck from Texas, man. I can hardly talk.
I love it there. I went there actually twice.
Well, listen, you're on the air. Go ahead.
And talk about everything you were talking about earlier. Fathers are important because a house divided cannot stand, and that's exactly what they're doing. And that's really sad because I didn't grow up without a father and went through all the hardships. So that was true. And then nutrition is true when you were talking about people eating clay. It's a thing called pica, and it's where people have like mineral deficiencies, and they'll start eating things that aren't food.
Yeah, that's what animals do, from squirrels to grizzly bears. That's what they do. But again, that's because they're extremist conspiracy theorists. And so that's why we promote the Youngevity products at InfoWarsHealth.com, because being healthy is a revolution against these tyrants. Thank you so much for the call. Let's talk to Solomon in Colorado, where the state rep there believes that clips are disposable. So you have to get rid of ban the clips so that there aren't any more clips out there. I mean, that does give us an idea about our enemy, folks. They are dumber than dirt. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for taking my phone call. Big fan of yours, man. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
You know, I was just listening to you earlier, how you were talking about people don't see the evil going on. Well, Bible says that we're going to be living in days where good is called evil and evil is called good. And I really believe that we're in those days, Alex, and people just don't want to see what was going on.
By the way, Fox News on their radio section posts stuff that basically comes from Infowars.com. It should be top Fox News, CNN, everywhere, that the Army manuals, clearly Southern Poverty Law Center, I can tell the typeset, the graphic is from one of their previous graphics. I mean, I see this all the time. I know who it is, saying, quote, all Catholics are extremists next to Al-Qaeda. And then evangelical Protestants. I mean, but see, it's not even a big deal now. It's like, the state owns your kids. You will take shots. The TSA will be on your highways. We're buying billions of bullets. And Christians are terrorists. And it's not even a news item. You see, I mean, that shows you how deep into this crazy Orwellville we've gotten.
Well, and the sad thing about it is America is asleep, and the church is asleep just as well. And, you know, I've seen where Obama wants to try to stop Social Security now. And, you know, it's really sad especially for elderly who have worked all their lives for Social Security, and now for our youth because they have nothing to work for.
The model of the health care, the way it's written, now they admit the death panels now. Have you noticed that? Of course, it was written by insurance companies to make you buy a product, and then they can adulterate the product. It would be better to have a pure socialist system of health care than this. But see, socialism wasn't created by angels. And I'm not saying socialism is good. I'm saying better than this fascistic system that they call socialist. It was created by eugenicists that want to control society and want to reduce the population. And so you've got these fools. I mean, it makes me physically ill calling into talk radio going, because I've heard them, oh, you're just mad that Obama's giving us something free and redistributing wealth, when he works for the big 6 mega banks, absolutely sworn to destroy this culture and this society. Thank you for the call. Now we're going to go to our guest till about 40 after. Then I'll go to Mike. Then I'll go to Steve, Chris, Nelson, and others that are patiently holding. But let me show TV viewers that are watching this Austin, Texas government press release This is the office of the police chief. You guys can just document cam it. I have it right here. Statement from Chief Art Aceveda regarding Antonio Buehler grand jury indictments. He said, we appreciate the thorough investigative and review process where they told you to drop your case against them. Antonio Buehler joins us. He's a political activist in Austin, Texas, most well known for his activism in police accountability, which stemmed from his controversial arrest in Austin on New Year's Day 2012 after he witnessed a woman he alleges was being abused by Austin police officers. His activist work is funneled through the Peaceful Streets Project. He founded with the help of other local activists, and that's why they're now indicting him. He is a West Point graduate and airport ranger, qualified former military officer with tours in Kosovo and Iraq. He also works as a teacher, homeschooling specialist. That's terrorist. Man, that's really, you're a veteran, too. That's the worst part. And college and MBA admissions consultant. During the breaks, you're out here doing that. AntonioBuehler.com is the website. We'll put that up on screen for folks. We're going to skip this break because we're in overdrive right now. I got to tell you, here is the magazine where our reporters, for TV viewers out there, other folks can just go to Infowars.com and see it. Look right here. It's our reporters, or our crew, being given tickets for handing out magazines. And the police admitted to me on the phone, we've never been told to do this before, but we're going to do it. And until I went down there and threatened to sue them, then they backed off and said, we're sorry, but which is even creepier. Because if I was to sue them, they'd probably just indict me for it, which I guess you've got to, well, now we're indicting Alex for handing out magazines. Antonio, I mean, wow, a year later, because you have it back down, they are now, and everybody's seen the footage from across the street, somebody else shot that. I mean, the cop comes at you and is grabbing at you, not wanting it to be on tape. And now the good grand jury, hey, same kind of folks indicted the guy in Williamson County they knew was innocent. I mean, so maybe you need to go to prison, boy.
Well, they want me to, that's for sure. They don't like it when people are out there exposing them for their crimes.
Well, I tell you, but we're sure a free country. Did you ever imagine when you were in Kosovo and Iraq and places you'd be being indicted for this?
No, and quite frankly, everyone told me how I was protecting freedoms overseas and all that stuff, but I feel like I'm doing more to do it by fighting the police here because the police are the real domestic terrorists, unfortunately, in this country.
Well, they certainly are trying to turn them into that, yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, like in New York, they would just probably beat you to death. I mean, as bad as they are, it's kind of bad like when, the Austin police are, in my opinion, are pretty good compared to a lot of them. But I agree with it. They did to you totally wrong. And I guess Aceveda is doubling down on you.
It's actually kind of funny. I mean, when's the last time you saw a police chief give a press release for someone who got indicted on a Class C misdemeanor? It's a traffic ticket, right? And so they couldn't get me on the felony because there's 6 witnesses that say that the cops lied. There was video, there was audio, 2 videos actually. So they knew that they couldn't do that, but they had to save face. So they went ahead and got me on 4 misdemeanors for failure to obey.
Failure to obey the order of a police officer. But the message, the way the media said was, you're allowed to film, but you got to obey and not film when we say.
Right. They'll come up with an order, and then when you don't jump through the hoops fast enough, when they tell you to go move back 60 feet and you only move back 50 feet, then they can arrest you for failure to obey.
Well, my only issue is this. America is being collapsed. Do the cops think the globalists that are taking over this country are going to care about their rights after they've taken yours?
And that's the thing that bothers me the most about it is they're dispensable. They're just like soldiers. The government doesn't care about them. They'll throw them to the side just like the soldiers.
Well, in fact, they hate them. There's nobody they hate more than a citizen trained to fight after they're done with you.
Right. And as long as you're on their side doing their bidding, you're okay. But once you stand up and become an oath keeper, for example, then you become a threat.
Well, they're really scared of oath keepers.
Yeah, definitely.
Now they're taking veterans' children if they get caught with half a marijuana cigarette. Imagine. They can also plant that on you. I mean, it should all be decriminalized right now. The government ships in the hard drugs. They're trying to put the kids on the hard prescription drugs. I mean, what a joke. End it all now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the drug war is it's used to punish the people and help out the prison systems, the pharmaceutical companies, and it just feeds the system. More people in the system, more people in jail, the better off they are.
Well, yeah, people can make excuses about this, but we have the largest prison population in the world. For those that don't know about your case, recap what happened.
I was designated driver on New Year's Day 2012. I was driving my buddy home. We were running out of gas, pulled into the 7-Eleven on Lamar and West 10th, and there was a DUI stop in progress. We watched it. We didn't want to get involved. We were getting ready to leave, and all of a sudden, Robert Snyder, an APD cop, started ripping the female passenger out of the car, throwing her to the ground. Patrick Aborski joined in. They were twisting her arms behind her back in a torture move. And so I tried to take pictures, and when she started screaming, begging me to record it, I started yelling to the cops, telling them to stop. Aborski then assaulted me, started pushing me around, and then because he assaulted me, he had to have an excuse to assault me, so he said I spit in his face, which is a third-degree felony, carries 2 to 10 years.
But unfortunately for him, there was multiple cameras taping it.
Yeah, there was a guy across the street who stepped forward, who had cell phone video, and there were other witnesses who stepped forward. And so I'm probably one of the luckiest guys to ever get charged with a bogus felony, because I had a bunch of witnesses who were willing to step forward. All of them were pretty credible witnesses, too.
But, man, let me tell you, that is so scary to falsely, because I've seen this so many times in my life. I've had it threatened with me when I knew cops were dealing drugs in Dallas, and they said, we'll plant drugs on you. We'll say you stole stereo equipment, when they knew I didn't have a criminal record, didn't steal stuff. And then beat me up behind closed doors, saying, next time you're dead, basically. Imagine framing people and feeling good about it. And it'd be one thing if you framed a axe murderer who had gotten out wrongly. I still wouldn't do that, because then you become the devil. You're fighting. But imagine just framing innocent people like Michael Morton just with pleasure. I mean, they just do it. And it seems like the better a person is, the more fun it is to frame them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's amazing, because I was waiting for people to come out, good cops on the inside, to come out and say, we reject this, to go after the police chief. But Internal Affairs, the police chief, Anthony Hippolito, they all lined up and supported this this cover-up. It was essentially a cover-up, and they were willing to destroy my life and Norma's life in order to protect this corrupt cop. It was disgusting.
Well, I could sit here and show cops doing horrible things every day on this show if I wanted to demonize police. But there is a culture in government of unaccountability. I mean, it's like the state police that put their hands, the two sisters, in their bodies. I mean, you could see the woman foisting her hand in the vaginal area, then into the other area. And the state police said, well, that's normal. This is our new thing. And I was like, whoa, I'm not going to go along with this. I mean, you're not doing this to my wife and children. And then everybody freaked out about it. So now they've indicted the police that did this. But the head of the state police, and before that, the local commander, defended it. It shows they're really getting out of touch.
And the only reason that became an issue was because the Dodds were willing to come forward with a lawsuit. If that didn't happen, No,
the state police said we do this all the time.
Right, right.
Not only is it illegal to do a cavity search without a warrant or an emergency, the same glove.
Yeah, yeah, it was disgusting. But not only were
2 girls, 1 glove.
Exactly, and both front and back. It completely.
Yeah, let's show that, folks. Can you show the women state police do cavity search of women?
And the thing is, Hellerson and Farrell, those were the 2 cops. They were the ones who did the deeds, but everyone in the chain of command, the entire Department of Public Safety rallied behind those guys. Not one cop came out and said, this is wrong.
Well, I mean, that's what the blood draws are all about. They know the beer's there. Sit out to the liquor store. Sit outside the, pull them over. No, they don't do that. They want you to go drink, and they want to put you in jail for 2 beers instead of going after people who are drunk, reckless driving. You don't need drunk driving charges. Reckless driving is a felony. But no, we're not going to people for reckless driving, which we had on the old code, because it's reckless driving regardless. Now it's 2 beers, you're going to go to jail. And I sat there, I'm not even going to say the guy's name, but a well-known cop. I sat there in a restaurant with my children a few weeks ago and watched him drink tequila shots and beer. And it just so happened I then came out of the movie theater after he did. It was a restaurant by it. Yeah, you can just roll the video. Yeah, there it is. And I watched the guy go out and get in the vehicle. Now, I'll be honest. I think the guy had a couple beers, a couple tequila shots. He's a big guy. I think he could drive fine after 2 hours. But I'll guarantee you, if they made him blow, DWI.
Right. And if it was someone that didn't have the magic costume on, they would get arrested for that.
Well, exactly. But my whole point is the heaviest drinkers I know are cops. How do they sit there and pull somebody over and then they blow a 0.9 or whatever, and then you go to jail? It's all, and now they take your kids. Now, I mean, it's any way to get us in the system. I'm seeing cases every day where pot smokers are having their kids taken. Yeah. I mean, that's basically revolution time right there. When the cops want to stick their fingers in your butt. I mean, I'm sorry to use that term for listeners, but I mean, you know, this is Twilight Zone. I mean, I worked as a large animal vet, and when we would do exams on cows, the vet would change his glove every time. Mm-hmm. A cow gets better treatment than we do. How does TSA do that?
Well, they're the government. And the problem is that people have this inability to separate the government from people. If people can't do it, if it's a crime when a person does it, and then all of a sudden when that person has authority from the government, they can do it, you know, that should be a problem. People shouldn't say just because you're a government employee, you can commit these crimes. But we live in a society where authority is everything, and people think that you have to give respect to people, and therefore those people in positions of authority have the right to commit crimes.
That is completely backwards. In the old days when this country was trying to follow the Bill of Rights, if you did have a uniform, you had to be commissioned by Congress to even have a uniform in the military. That's why they didn't want police to wear uniforms, because they're like, that's the military. But New York started it first. You had guys in suits, and let me tell you, they better behave themselves or they were in trouble, because people knew you've got to keep that authority in check. It's called a servant, not an official.
Right, and I would love to go back to the days when they were public servants.
Well, again, for me, the biggest thing is I've seen the video, is you don't spit on him. And the fact that he tried to put you in jail for, what was it, maybe 7 years if he'd have got you?
2 to 10 years.
Yeah, so the average is about 7, I was reading. So 7 years in jail, and they would sleep good, sending you to jail because you didn't follow his orders.
Right, to teach me respect. And he told me when I was in the truck, and it was just me and him, he said, you don't F with police, you F with the wrong cop, and now you're going to F and pay. And by that, he meant you're going to go to jail for a crime you didn't commit. But what really makes me mad is, yeah, this guy's a horrible, terrible person. He should go to jail for what he did. But what really makes me mad is the fact that it's clear, there's no question that he lied and he committed the felony crimes that night, and yet Chief Acevedo and other members of the Austin Police Department continue to support this notion that I was a criminal that night.
Well, here's the deal. If Acevedo doesn't say turn your guns in, Fidel Castro loves everybody. I mean, he says he doesn't like Fidel Castro, but Fidel Castro says a citizen shouldn't have guns. He says, you know, turn these guns in, turn these mags in, you know, or you're for the criminals. Criminals can get guns illegally. Criminals are going to get guns anyways. You're going to use a universal background check to take our guns. We all know what this is about. Art Acevedo is a smart guy. He knows. He says he wants to come in. I know he listens. Come on, let's go. I mean, you know, I'll be civil with you. And you know, he's a smart talker. But let me tell you, if he doesn't do that, the police union will have him out.
Oh, exactly.
So I mean, all it is that, yeah, our local gang is not as bad as other gangs on average, but they are still a gang.
Right.
And look at New York. I mean, I've talked to Austin cops that have asked directions of New York cops, and they scream at you. I've seen them do it to tourists with little kids and a family. I mean, no respect for themselves, no respect for anything. On just a wild power trip, the cops in New York smoke cigars on duty with their hats on sideways. What does that tell you?
Just they have no respect for themselves, for their uniform, or for the people.
Exactly, because even if you were a corrupt person, you'd want to treat the public with respect, because you want your family treated with respect. We're going to come back, talk about your case and where it's going and your website, and take phone calls. Antonio Buehler is our guest. Antonio Buehler is our guest. You know what? You're anti-police. Michael Morton, you know, They blocked testing the bloody bandana day one. For some reason, they wanted to put him in jail. Turned out they knew it, kept him in jail. That's a good thing. I mean, maybe they should human sacrifice him to the government. See, instead of just sacrificing people like other cultures did, they now just put you in prison to rot and then let the violent offenders out. What's wrong with that?
I mean, if you care about liberty, obviously that's a bad.
Antonio, do you want to worship government right now? Worship Art Acevedo. Kneel to him, worship him, and maybe he'll work with the grand jury to drop the charges.
Yeah, well, the first thing, Art Acevedo is a politician. He doesn't care about anyone's rights. I don't want to worship anyone. I want people to be free, and I don't think that we should have to bow down before cops or politicians.
That's how an extremist would talk.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we are. We are extremists. They paint us as extremists. Southern Poverty Law Center that you were referencing before, anyone who even invokes the Bill of Rights is an extremist.
I think they should exhume the body of George Washington and publicly publicly hang him for being a patriot.
Okay, and Thomas Jefferson, too?
Well, they're all terrorists, exactly. Like, I think you're an extremist. No, seriously, I'm being sarcastic, obviously, before the news picks that up. What do you make of all this? Is it just now America's about licking government boots? And where is your case going currently?
Well, so we'll fight these stupid charges, and Norma was indicted as well on resisting arrest, even though it was illegal arrest. So we'll fight these, and then we'll go ahead and we'll file 1983 civil rights lawsuits against the cops. But I don't have any faith in the system working to protect me or other people. So we're going out and doing direct action. We're trying to expose the cops, the criminal cops, for what they do, videotape them, share the stories of abuse, and try to change the culture in America where people stop automatically worshiping authority and they start asking questions. And when they see a cop doing something illegal, they call them out for it.
That's actually an idea. We could have, like, instead of scarecrows, like images of cops out there, and then it'll be mandatory that when you see one, that it's a felony if you don't get out and worship just the uniform.
Or we could just put a bunch of scarecrows with people with cameras in their hand and just terrorize the cops.
Well, my whole issue is I run into a lot of Austin cops, and they say they're pro-Second Amendment, pro this and that. I mean, when they were giving tickets out to our crew under orders, later I went down, they all were like shaking my hand and going, oh, we think it's bull as well. And we went to the higher-ups and said, you know, is this right? And then they said, no, don't do it anymore. My point is, why do they need to be told you don't have to do this? I mean, give people tickets for handing out magazines in downtown Austin.
Yeah, no, people should stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to participate in this. I'm not going to go after people who aren't committing a crime, and I'm not going to cover up for criminal cops. They should stand up and say, I'm going to do what's right. And, you know, I want to be called a hero. I want to be called a courageous, good cop. Well, prove it to us.
Why were they, because I saw the video, I mean, and I'm not a, you know, special forces guy like you, where they teach you that, you know, how to be tortured so you know how to resist torture. I guess that's how you knew that. But, I mean, it's 101 to grab the handcuffs and lift the arms up high. I've had cops do that to me when I'm not even resisting as a way to cause pain, I guess, because that's how they feel powerful. Why was he doing that to the woman?
I think he was just trying to teach her a lesson. He was trying to show who was boss and was trying to hurt her. And I think it probably has to do with training, either formal training or unformal.
Yeah, what is it when somebody isn't resisting where they all jump on your head with their knees and all the time break people's necks? I mean,
and they shout, stop resisting the entire time because it's part of their training. They know that there are certain procedures that they need to go through to cover up their crimes.
But why don't they go join like a jiu-jitsu club or a boxing club? Because I guarantee you there's real guys want to fight with you there, not just jump on some woman who's handcuffed. I just don't get it.
Well, if you're a bully, you don't want someone to fight back. And if you have a badge and gun, people are less likely to fight back. And in Austin, Texas, you get paid very well to be a bully. Snyder, who assaulted Norma, he was only on the force for 3 years. He made $88,000 last year. Patrick Gaborski, who's only been on the force for 12, 13 years, who assaulted me, he made nearly $130,000 last year.
Well, that's right. They're on the Special Praetorian Guard DWI detail.
Snyder's not.
Well, the point is the more people they arrest, the more money they get.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I heard that they make this... The county makes $6,500 per DUI arrest in this county. Patrick Gaborski had over 300 arrests last year alone.
Well, you know what's a real bounty? They can make up to $500,000 on a kid. And that's why they're now taking people's kids if they find marijuana on them. They're calling it a narcotic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been taking kids for a long time. And Perry did it with those Mormon kids or whatever in North Texas.
And then it came out they weren't, last time I checked, doing anything to them. I mean, and again, they always choose some group that people think is a little weird. But then, oh, we burned down the Davidians because he might have been doing something with young women. I mean, oh, good, let's kill him. That'll fix it.
Right, exactly. Same with the Ruby Ridge. You know, oh, white supremacists. So therefore, we're justified in killing them.
And it turned out he wasn't. They kept coming to him saying, I'll give you all this money. Just saw off this shotgun. And they told him, you're a former Special Forces Green Beret. In fact, I want to get him back on the show, Randy Weaver. We want you to infiltrate the white supremacists. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. And so they set him up and then shot his wife holding the baby and shot the little kid in the back.
Yeah, disgusting.
And Lon Horiuchi was very proud of himself. I mean, listen, I'm not that tough of a guy, but I've been in a lot of fights growing up in Dallas. For whatever reason, it was rough compared to this town, which I love the fact that people aren't getting in fights over nothing. But my whole deal is if like some big guy's acting tough and, you know, doing stuff, I like start thinking about what I'm going to do to them, how much I want to fight them because they're bigger than I am. It's just an instinct, I guess a Napoleon complex you could call it. But, you know, I mean it's like, I'll show you, you know, like Yoda to Count Dooku or something. But I couldn't, but then it's embarrassing if someone's weaker than me to even imagine doing something to them. And then I see with thugs throughout history, they get more excited the weaker you are. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, these guys were so manly, you know, they want to, you know, like go get in a bar fight with, you know, like the real deal.
Yeah, and we've seen it before. We've seen the cops become extra aggressive towards the smaller women that they deal with. And Patrick Gaborski has a history of abusing women, and we're going to expose that as well.
What's your proof?
Well, we have people who've been afraid to come forward because they're afraid of the Austin Police Department, but we have contacts both through direct contacts and through defense attorneys who know that this guy's been abusing people for years. Every defense attorney in town knows who he is, and we're going to expose that.
And so now they've indicted you.
Yeah, they've indicted me. Fortunately, it's not for the felony. They just threw a bunch of misdemeanors at me. Same with Norma. Same with another woman who was arrested for filming cops. But
you know, I knew a guy who was a Home Depot manager. I mean, he's been on the show before, but he got pulled over, and they said that he'd thrown a cigarette out the window, which, if I go from memory, he hadn't even done. And it's some famous cop. He's like a captain now. And there's squad car video of this, and the guy's, you know, he's paralyzed chest down. Mm-hmm. You know, he has hand controls. And the cop goes, "What are these?" He goes, "Those are my hand controls." He goes, "Get out." He goes, "My wife's got to get out and get my wheelchair." But yeah, and he goes, "No," I said, "Get out now." And he couldn't, so he beats him up because he won't walk. And then I see these TSA videos where they say to like the 90-year-old woman, "Get up," and she's like, "I'm dying of cancer." And then they drag him out and all this. It's like crazy people. I mean, I don't get. I just don't get it. Have you seen the video of them breaking pro-lifers' arms?
I haven't seen that, but I've seen hundreds of videos of cops committing violent crimes over the past year because once you get victimized, you just get consumed by it.
Have you seen all the videos of where people are in wheelchairs and they say, "Get up"?
Yeah, there's a really sad video of a woman who just dumps the guy out on his face. He's sitting in a jail in a wheelchair.
Well, some of those cases we followed where they really are quadriplegics, the bones are like sponge and it breaks their bones.
Yeah, it can't be good for them.
And then they laugh at him as the person's there defecating and urinating all over themselves. It's like, what? Oh, you threw a quadriplegic on the ground? This is the new... I mean, those people should be run out of the police force, but no, they're not.
Right, and all I'm asking is for the so-called good, courageous cops to step up and stand up to these bullies. Start protecting the people from these bullies. No one has stood up to Patrick Gaborski. I want someone to stand up to him, or Robert Snyder, or Martinez, who I saw a woman at South by Southwest because she tried to stand up for her own dignity.
What happened?
They were just clearing the streets at the end of the night, and he's like, get off the road. And she goes, "I am getting off the road." And then he pushes her, and then she stands up, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And then he wrestled her down. Two more cops joined in on the assault, and then you can hear other cops out there saying, "Stop resisting, stop resisting." It was completely absurd.
I'll tell you what's creepy is I've been downtown to go see a movie at the Alamo Draft House downtown. Sometimes they only show films there, and I won't go on 6th Street. They got some nice restaurants down on 4th and stuff. And I've seen like cops with shaved heads, Satan tattoos on them, black gloves. They're like, "Get off the street!" And then one time I looked and he goes, "Hi, Jones, how you doing?" And I was like, "Whoa, that's a criminal." I mean, my immediate instinct was prepare for combat. You know, just that's a bad guy right there. And what's scary is back when I was in college, that was like the thug bouncers. Like most bouncers aren't bad guys. We'd run into guys that were, you know, on it for a power trip where you walk in with a really good looking woman into a bar and they'd go, "What you doing, pretty boy?" And I, you know, that's why I quit going down to 6th Street. Well, I'm not a pretty boy now. But the point is that, my God, we're just turning. I mean, we know North Korea, Mexico, all these other countries. You turn loose, you worship government, thugs get in, you never get out of it. Generations of slavery. I mean, we're going into this. And it's really crazy. Have you seen the shaved head? And I'm not saying everybody with a shaved head's bad. I was down there talking about, you know, shaved head goons that South by Southwest reportedly sent out when the cops wouldn't do the wrong thing anymore. And then the code enforcers wouldn't do the wrong thing. They then sent goons out. You know, big guys. Just, you know, the point is, it's the muscle type guy. Some guy had a shaved head. He goes, "Hey, what's wrong with the shaved head?" My hair is all falling out. Soon mine will probably be shaved. My point is that what is this? I mean, have these guys not had their butts kicked properly? I mean, I just don't understand, like, wanting to dominate people.
Well, it's human nature, and when you look at the...
Not my nature.
No, not yours. And there are people, if you have morals, ethical, groundings, you don't want to hurt people.
Well, it's not even that. It's shameful to want to dominate people that are under your control.
Right, but the Stanford prison experiment was one that showed us that when you give people power, authority, and control, that a huge segment of the population will go ahead and abuse that.
92%.
I didn't know the number. But
they began to desire to kill people for no reason.
Yeah, and you have examples through military and whatnot throughout the ages where torture becomes a pastime for these people.
Well, I mean, it's what happens when weak people take on the mantle of being men.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you ought to do with the Austin Police Department? You ought to, like, say, hey, let's have a charity boxing match. I guarantee you'd make $1 million. Let's say give it to children's charity or something. Not a CPS charity, one that maybe helps disabled kids.
Yeah.
I bet they'd chicken out and wouldn't have a boxing match. Would you have a boxing match with one of those guys?
Well, some of those guys are pretty pumped up on steroids.
Come on, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it.
It would depend. I boxed in college, and the difference of 20 pounds is huge, so, yeah.
I'm not afraid.
Well, yeah, I mean...
When they're in the wrong, you can't stomp somebody in the wrong?
Well, I rather stomp them through direct action, through, exposing...
Come on, challenge him to a boxing match.
Well, there's a guy in downtown named Vess who's, roided out. He's huge, and we saw him assaulting the victim of an altercation on 2 different occasions. That's a guy I don't want to step in the ring with.
I don't think that's scary. I couldn't even wake up till the guy's twice bigger than I am. How many fights you been in? You've been in the military over there in Iraq.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I haven't been in any fights in a long time. I don't believe in fighting.
You know the fun. I'm not going to get into it. I'm just joking around. Anyways, the whole I just don't get it. I just don't get men wanting to fight somebody that's weaker than them. I just don't get it.
Or worse, men who abuse women, right? Like they did to Norma on New Year's Day. They weren't even looking for a fight. They were just looking to throw her around because, one, they knew that she couldn't fight back even if she wanted to because she was so much smaller. And two, they had these badges and guns on, which meant that if she fought back, it would have been a death wish. And so they abused her because they could, and they enjoyed it.
It's just so alien to me. I mean, I just can't get it. I just don't understand it. Have you noticed that it seems like they promote those people?
Yeah, and I don't want to use his name because people take it the wrong way, but in the Dorner Manifesto, which I think was tampered with, but regardless, he made the point very clear that the people involved in the Rodney King beating are now the superintendents. They're up at the very top of the chain.
Yeah, but it shows how twisted he was from that culture that he'd go shoot somebody's, girlfriend to get at him or somebody's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just whacked out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely...
And then the cops burned him up and said they didn't and burned him up in front of us and said they'd burn him up.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's bad. I think the police being out of control is a manifestation of the culture being out of control.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that people who are raising children go out of their way to tell their kids not to respect authority just because it's authority. Get them to question everything, get them to challenge, well, why is this person above me? Why does this person have authority over me? And get them to believe that they're sovereign, free individuals. And then when the cops are rounding people up, putting them in boxcars like they did in Germany, then people can stand up and say, no.
Well, why are you being anti-police? They were doing their job in Germany.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Doing your job is not sufficient. If you're doing an unethical, immoral job, you should either quit or resist.
I think you're going a little too far about Germany and Russia and China. I think it's a good idea. We turn all our guns in, worship the government, then they'll treat us nice. Actually, they won't. People say, well, I just grovel. They'll be nice to me. No, no, no. Bad guys will then get in that like to torture people.
Yeah, I mean, when you give them an inch, they take a mile.
Well, I don't know about all the specifics and all the cases and all the cops you're talking about. And again, I'll just be honest. And I'm not saying this because I live here, because I don't even live in Austin anymore. I live outside Austin. I've been all over the country. I know you have, too. I mean, let me tell you, the cops are a lot worse in other areas.
Yeah.
I mean, it is Creepville, man. Have you been around New York?
I lived in New York, and it's degrees of bad. And what I'm looking for is I'm just looking for the good.
No, I know, but have you seen it where like pot-bellied cops have sideways hats on smoking cigarettes?
Well, I've seen the cops in New York do some pretty crazy stuff. But it's degrees of bad, and all I want are the good cops to stand up and start outing the bad cops, start arresting.
But I mean, if we let the cop, and then Arte Saveda will like fire a woman cop because she punched somebody who was, I think, on tape spitting in their face. So then that's a crime of passion. I think they say because she lied about it. But then It's all about burning a few cops to act like you're doing your job.
Oh, exactly. And so Art Aceveda will tell you, if you ask him about it, he'll say, no, I've fired cops before. But he fires them because they fail to tell the truth about how they committed a crime so that they can cover up for it. The problem with that female officer was she wasn't honest with her chain of command about what she did, so they weren't able to cover up for it. Patrick Gaborski, he did it the right way. He stuck to his lie, and he told the chain of command exactly what happened, and then they rallied behind him.
Have you run into him yet?
I have. I've run into him a couple times. The first time was pretty passionate. I called him a coward. And then the other times, he hides his face from me. He runs away, like all cowards do.
I think we should handle this by a boxing match. Have you seen the movie El Cid with Charlton Heston? You know, it's actually a true story.
No.
In the old days, they just put two guys in a ring with swords.
Yeah. Well,
people were pretty nice back then, though, because you didn't want to mess with somebody unless you could really back it up.
Well, exactly, and that's the thing. They hide behind their badges. So Patrick Gaborski would never stand up to even the women that he abuses without his badge and his gun.
Now, come on, it's not abuse to like tackle a woman. That's friendly.
You know, they twisted her arms. It was the torture move is called strapido. So that was definitely torture. But we have other stories where he chokes women, where he presses upon them when he's buckling them in, where he ripped a woman out of the car so hard he ripped the woman's sleeve off of the jacket. You know, and these are not one-off instances. These are just the stories we know about with Patrick Gaborski.
Well, it's pretty amazing and it's pretty creepy. We're going to come back and take a few final phone calls. We'll cover where your story is going. AntonioBuehler.com, BUEHLER.com. I'm Alex Jones. And I just say turn all your firearms in and worship government. Oh, Mike in New York's been holding for a while. I didn't even read the screen. Daughter taken due to owning guns. Mike in New York. Wow, the child predators had their way with you. Tell us what happened, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, Alex. Well, it's a pretty long story, but I'll try to get to the point as fast as I can. I've been in and out of family court, and my ex-wife's been trying to get my daughter away from me, and finally she found a way. My mom's a pistol permit holder and grew up in a family hunting all my life, exposed to guns all my life. No criminal background whatsoever. In fact, speeding tickets I could count on one hand how many I have. I'm an ex-vet, which thank God they don't know about inside the court at this point. It's sick and perverted, Alex. And
oh, I know. So they took your daughter because you own guns. That's the reason.
They're demanding that I hand in a firearm that, in fact, was my father's, who is now deceased, and by law that goes to my mother, who's next in line, and I have two older brothers that are in line to actually receive that, and they're demanding that I steal, in essence, this rifle from my mother to hand it into them. So check this out, to get my daughter 2 hours a week at a family center under supervised visitation because I'm a threat to society. Meanwhile, I have no record, like I said. I've never been arrested.
Now, has your daughter been handed over to the CPS PBPs, pot-bellied?
My ex-wife has full custody over her right now. They took away all my parental rights.
Okay, so that's what's happened. Yeah, they use that as a tool now. If the husband has guns, in the divorce, the guns are automatically taken. And that's what they're saying. They're not saying take guns from mentally ill people that have been adjudicated, you know, that think they're St. Jerome, to quote Ghostbusters. They are doing this literally across the board. And people, you know, I shot a special report last week, headline, gun confiscation and mass arrest have begun. And I explain it's going on everywhere, but it's not being announced like it's a big deal. And people are in the comments going, you fearmonger, there's no mass arrest. Folks, they are arresting millions of people a year for marijuana, and tens of thousands have their kids taken permanently, I mean, gone. Okay, I mean, there are families on the run because they supposedly got caught with a bowl of marijuana, you know, engineer vets. And I don't even believe that, folks. And again, I'm the first guy to give the, quote, police the benefit of the doubt, but when the system's so corrupt that I grew up in Dallas, where the sheriff later went to jail for drug dealing, and that's what I was death threatened over, was talking about it, because, I mean, you know, I didn't like drugs. I'd be at parties and drugs would be delivered by the cops and by sheriff's deputies, and, you know, it was just so insulting to have them then pull us and our buddies over, and I don't want to get off into that whole story. I'm really sorry to hear And, you know, the cops would pull us over, want to search the car, and I'd go, "You deal drugs." Well, we all went to jail. You know, it was just, I'm going to teach you respect, boy. Respect. You're a drug dealer in a monkey outfit, in a Santa Claus outfit, in a Captain Crunch outfit. I mean, it's ridiculous. You dress up in a uniform, even for a masquerade party, and everybody kisses your rump. I mean, it's about what you stand for, what you... People wear a suit and everybody suddenly, you know, trust them. I apologize to all the callers that are holding. I've got to end this 4-hour transmission. I'm doing the nightly news tonight, 7 o'clock Central. If you're not a PrisonPlanet.tv member, you're crazy. The system does not want this going out. I hope you realize that. And it's your support of InfoWarsStore.com. It's your buying the books, the videos, all of it that funds our operation and gets you to the next level, waking up yourself and others. So be sure and go subscribe right now to PrisonPlanet.tv, and I'll be back tonight, 7 o'clock Central, with InfoWars Nightly News. Great job of the crew in this 4-hour transmission. I've only begun to fight. I'm Alex Jones.